Afternoon, once again. Afternoon, everybody. If we can take our seats so that we can start. All right. I think we'll proceed with the program, and other delegates will join us as we proceed. And welcome back to the last session for today, or rather the afternoon session of the last one. We have two more formal program segments to go through today. The first one will be a presentation that will be given by the IDC on funding, options that they have available to support the sector. And the presentation will be provided by Ms. Mbuta. All right. And then we will have the masterclass, which will be done by Mr. Simon Nokwela, who was the keynote speaker earlier. And he will be talking about unpacking the landscape for sales and distribution. So I think without further ado, let me call up you, sir, to come and join us on stage so that you can talk to us about funding. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm worried. I don't see my target market here, young people. So I just ask you to call them quickly because those are the people that I really want to talk to, so that we don't leave them behind. My name is Manyata Mbuta. I'm from the Industrial Development Corporation, and we are very happy to be here, CE. We are grateful for the invitation. I think ECDC is doing beautiful things here. I was saying to some of the colleagues that we see it online, the pictures and everywhere, and things are happening in ECDC. And I think I was saying to some of your colleagues that within all the DFIs, provincial DFIs, ECDC is doing the things, really, and we're happy to be partnering. Okay. So, and then, Honorable Executive Mayor, thank you so much for being here. And I think, I attend a lot of these other things, these kind of things. Politicians don't really stay for this long. I'm very impressed. In fact, when we were finishing eating, I was like, Executive Mayor, please don't leave. We still want to talk while you are here. We really appreciate your presence here, and the support. We really appreciate it. And colleagues, good afternoon. I think the protocol has been set. I will just observe it so that I don't call each one of you by name. All right. So let me get to it. And very happy to be here. Anyway, so they are fixing the presentation quickly. So, Industrial Development Corporation is one of the biggest and oldest DFIs in our country, and we're doing a whole lot of other things. So here, this is what the presentation is talking about. It's quite an old DFI. We have been, in existence for over 85 years. So we at least know what we're doing. So today I'll be talking about film and media and audiovisual. But I think it's important that I just say we do a whole lot of other things. We play in agro, in automotive, chemicals, energy infrastructure, and all those sectors, because we mandated to provide industrial development by funding those businesses. So that's who we are. We are owned by government. We report to Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. So we are an SOC, exactly like ECDC. We just have a national mandate which has also gone to the rest of Africa. So that's who we are. So today specifically I'll be talking about media and audiovisual. And so let me just say we have been involved in media for quite some time, but what then happened is that there was a time where the IDC stopped funding media because we really funded transactions which were not profitable. And the executives decided, you know what, let's put a hold on this. And it was not nice. And we just came back and we really trying to get traction in the media space. So, and some of the things that I'll be talking about, we'll be talking to specifically that. To say now that we are back, we cannot afford to fail again. Because if we fail, they will close the department again, and we don't want that. So, from this department, we do three things. We do content creation, we do production facilities, and post-production. So these are the things that can be funded through IDC funding. And so I'm saying to young people, here's an opportunity, and even older people and those who are young at heart. So this is how we do it. We provide interest-bearing loans. We also provide something that we call quasi-equity, which is something that is between a loan and an equity. It has features of both interest-bearing loan and equity. So it's a little bit patient in its nature. We also provide equity funding, which is, I'm sure most of you would know that it's a little bit patient because you don't have to pay interest, and it doesn't really put strain on your cash flow it also shows from our side that we are committed to the project. All right. So before we fund you, I should have mentioned that I have been given 5 minutes to do this presentation, so don't mind me as I go quick. So before we fund any business, these are the three things that we look at. The technical aspect. This is where it becomes very important. Whether the film makes sense, whether it will appeal to people, the cameras and all those things. That's the technical part. But most important now is the issue of market. When we talk to filmmakers, because we can have a beautiful film, but if no one is interested to buy it, if MultiChoice doesn't want it, or SABC or any other person doesn't want to buy it, then we will have a serious problem, because now you have this product, but you can't sell it and nobody wants it. So this is very important. That's why we really insist now on the pre-sale and a whole lot of other things that I'll explain that a little bit later. And see, I need to say this, the funding from ECDC is very important, because now it works as a catalyst. So if you put 1.5 million rand, even if the production cost is 10 million rand, if you put in 1.5 million rand into a film or into a project, what then happens is that they come to us, they say, oh, by the way, I have 1.5 million that I have secured from ECDC, NFDF, they've given me this much. Then now, because we cannot fund the whole amount, we can fund up to 49% of the funding. So, because of that, we will want money to come from somewhere. That enabling seed capital that ECDC gives makes a whole lot of impact into how we look at transactions. So, I mean, sometimes because ECDC will be putting like 1.5 million rand or 2 million, it might look like it's a small amount of money. But it plays a very, very critical role because as we go to our committees, we like, okay, we have ECDC, we have NVF, and the applicant has gone to DTIC to get a grant, so we have 51% of the money that is needed for the production, and IDC will then have 49%, and then we are able to cash flow the project upfront. So that makes a huge difference. Anyway, I just needed to do that. So, and that talks to the financial structure now to say how do we then do this and what do we think about this as the development corporation. Right. See now, my target market is not here. I'm very passionate about young people. So what we have done, we have just launched a youth in film at IDC. And this is quite interesting because we looked at IDC and as an industrial development corporation. So some of the sectors require a whole lot of money. And then we looked, what is it that we can do for young people to ensure that we get young people into jobs, into creative spaces and so on. So this is really our flagship. We launched it earlier this year. We had a master class last week. Young people came, and we really hoping that it will definitely yield. So within the IDC, we have a program called Grow E. Youth scheme, which was launched a couple of years ago, but we still have a lot of money in that particular pot. And we said, what we're going to do is to try and target young people using this particular fund. And it has two pots, one for investment and one for non-financial support. Very important because sometimes we need to help young people with non-financial support. So for this one, this is the qualifying criteria. If you are 36 and younger, where is Kanye? Kanye, where are you? She was saying to me, what about people who have just 36 or 37 thereabouts? What must happen? So the big thing is that even if you are older, we are able to finance you. The only issue is that you will not necessarily get concessional funding or concessional interest rate. So we're trying to make it easier for young people. And then the other thing that is important is that for young people, we insist on pre-sale. The reason is simple. And I mean, we had this discussion with Susanna, and he has a very interesting, the one that we just saw, that program of young people where he takes them through the process and so on. We really, really interested. I mean, we had a long meeting at our offices, and we really want to get involved in that, and we'll see how best we do this, Susanna. But the point is that these young people get through the training program, and then as they graduate, they are able to produce their own films. Now, the important thing is that who is going to buy this? They say, are you willing to buy this product from SABC and so on? We are particularly clear that we want a pre-sale for young people. So when we have a product, that product must have a pre-sale agreement. So in our structure that I was talking about earlier, ECDC would have put, let's say, 1.5 million rand. You have 500,000 from NVF, for example. Now, you have a pre-sale and, SABC says, well, we'll pay 3 million rand for this particular project. Within no time, you have about 5 million ready. and let's say the production cost is 10 million rand. Then we are able to cash flow the whole project with the understanding that when we finally deliver the product to SABC, we'll get that money, and then we'll get money from NFVF, we'll get money from ECDC. But the production would have happened, and it makes it much easier for that particular production to be profitable. So that's how we try to make it easy for young people to get involved, and we have partnered with SABC. We're talking to all other media houses to say, guys, please get involved. Let's see how we can do this. I mean, when we had our masterclass on last week, SABC was like, we're thinking of making space on our what do you call it, SABC Plus, for maybe have a pop-up channel there for young films which were produced by young people and so on. So it's really encouraging. I think the future is bright for film, and we're really happy that we are part of that bright future. So I wanted to put up this slide so that at least we can see some of the things that we have done, which are successful, where IDC has invested, and I think we are readily available. We are led by Mr. Bongani Mia, who is an executive for our department, and Mr. Kahisho Bapela, who is head of department. And then we are ready to receive your applications, both from young people and those who are young at heart. They are also welcome to apply. And then for young people, if you have a project already available, please email it to youth in media at IDC, youth in film at idc.co.za. We are working on a link that on our website where you click there, then you'll be able to apply and upload your documents. But as it is, we are open for business. If you have a ready production, a ready project, please do email us. Email it to youthinfilm at idc.co.za, and our website is idc.co.za. I hope I did not take too much of your time. Thank you so much.
I only see one hand for now. Okay. Oh, second hand, the gentleman at the back from Platinum Big Bay. There's two hands. Can you hand the mic over to you?
Thank you, sir. My name is Diana. I just wanted to ask you, I have never received IDC funding before, and maybe I was trying to apply that time and look at the tools to test the oxygen. But now that I heard that you guys are back, thank you very much for being back. I wanted to ask, so say I was putting together financing for a film, I don't know whether any BF and everything, so DTI and the rebate and then I have you guys with private investment. Where in the recruitment schedule would you guys sit like, could you be the last person I pay, the first person I need to pay back, or where in the recruitment schedule do you guys, would you guys sit, if that was my matrix of in terms of my financing? Right, thank you. Thank you. Recently, speaking of private cash flow that we are referred to, is it up to the 49%, which is your contribution? I think you related to other co-funding that has been connected, and I just wanted that clarity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the questions. So I also forgot to introduce my colleagues here. I am Mali Bongwa. He's a filmmaker. I'm here with Joy and So these are my colleagues. So after this, you can also talk to them and to get more. So yeah. So we really, I mean, ideally we would want to be the first to get involved. But unfortunately, because we funding 49% of the production production, we cannot get involved. Be the first movers. So we would, when you come to us, you would maybe have, your NMBF, maybe you would have gone to ECDC, and then you come to us, maybe you also go to SABC, get a pre-sale agreement, and then when you come, you're like, okay, here's my pre-sale, here's my contribution from other, players, and then IDC pays pay. And I think that what we were discussing earlier on was that, remember, when you get a pre-sale, the money doesn't flow immediately. When you get money from NFVF or even DTIC, the money does not flow immediately. So where we're trying to close the gap is that at least on the strength of those commitments, we are able then to front load the project so that we can go into production. And then we know that the money will come from DTIC, will patch those gaps. So we will then discuss 10 million rent with the understanding that we'll get money from the pre-sale, we'll get money from NFVF, from DTIC. So that's where we're trying to play. And then clarity on the 49%, my brother. So this is where I was just indicating that we fund 49% of the total production cost. So the other 51% has to come. If you have the money, please, you can use that as own contribution. We are happy to finance it like that. But because we understand, and particularly with young people, we understand that young people don't have the money. And we thought, how can we make it easier for them to get involved? And that's why we're trying to collaborate to ensure that we eliminate the burden of own contribution and encumbered cash that sometimes really put so much pressure on young people.
I have a follow-up question because I don't think you understood the question.
Okay. Okay.
Did you?
Yeah, no, I've got a question. Good afternoon, all. Your question was on recruitment. Typically, how we will go, it is probably your sales commission that's going to go first, whatever the percentage is, typically between 15 and 5, somewhere there, that's what's going to go first. And after that, if there is an MG with the sales agent or distributor, then they will typically take that first because the revenues come to them first. And then whatever follows after that, we would like to already pursue with them. So recruit at the same time. We will typically negotiate what the percentages are going to look like on how that money will then be distributed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. If we can rank first, we will take that.
No, listen, we don't want you to rank first. You are our government. We want you to rank as last as possible because we've got things. We've got loans that the DTIC sometimes takes too long to cover, then we're in debt. So we want you guys to be patient.
There's another hand at the top.
Just a bit behind me. Okay. Just a basic question about the team seems to be located in Gauteng. I understand that applications will typically happen digitally. But if you're engaging on a personal level, is it possible to go to the reason office, for example, in Congress? To actually ask open research at some point, even during the processing of the application. I know that communication is key, but understanding is even more important. That is something that interpersonal or personal interaction is important and just online part.
Yeah, we do that for offices all around the country, so they are deal makers in those offices who can then attend to you and take your questions. Thank you.
Right. Are there any other hands? Okay, I don't see any other hand. Thank you very much, Mr. Mbuta. I think we can move to the next segment. We can move to the next segment, which is the masterclass. I do see Mr. Makwela in the room. He will take us through the unpacking of the landscape of sales and distribution, a journey to market access. I think your presentation is ready, sir. Over to you.
I come back. All right. Hello again. For those that weren't here before, my name is Simon Makwela. I come from a company called Marine Grace. Marine Grace is based in Singapore. So typically what we do is management consulting, but we also a holding company for media, hospitality, and tech companies as well. So we've got a couple of companies and projects that we manage and assist, as well as doing work in the markets to assist small businesses to understand the landscape of business and operations and productivity and all of those big words. So the purpose of today's masterclass is a 2-hour masterclass. Now I need to do it in an hour and then I need to do it in 45 minutes. Okay. We're going to rush. So I do encourage you to take out your notebooks and pens and take down notes, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. What this masterclass is designed for is to understand economics, more specifically economics, but also how to use economics as an advantage to speak to people like IDC, people like SABC, marketers, etc., and to get pre-sales out of your content before you finish the project, so that you know who you're speaking to and how to speak to them. So let's get to it. Okay, let's play it right. So some of the brands that we've worked with, Unilever. This is like way past. There's a show called Perfect to Chef Show. Who remembers that? Okay, cool. 2. So with Perfect Chef Show, we're speaking to a brand. We're speaking about products, and we're speaking about revenue. So the reason why I'm bringing this up now is that sometimes what you'll find is that you're not necessarily just trying to sell your products to a broadcaster. You're trying to sell your products to a brand as well. And that brand can give you a portion of your funding as a sponsorship or as a for your launch, for your marketing, etc., in partnerships that will help offset the cost of producing your content as well. So this comes through as either an advertiser-funded program that can go to any of the broadcasters that is supported fully by a brand sponsorship, or it can also go into something like a launch or marketing fees or sponsorship in terms of product placements within shows. You'll see on Uzalo, I think it is, they have these blank digital boards where they can actually digitally imprint a brand into them so that they can sell that airtime back to brands so they can make revenue back to afford paying for that airtime slot. Obviously, Modular, I worked with Carlton Tourism and did a commercial for them at GP Showcase. I think you've seen the one with Kenneth Nicholson and Dr. Masifemo. It was at the airport. I produced and directed that. We launched the Honda BRV in South Africa as one of our commercials in 2022. We did corporate videos for companies like Dimension Data. So these are just what we call a product market mix. So in the market, I am rushing, guys. So keep up with me. So product market mix means that don't focus as a filmmaker just on making one big hit television production. You will not survive and be sustained as a business. Businesses operate with money, they operate with revenue, they operate with cash flow, and you need to invest in having a different
range and portfolio of products that can keep you sustained in the industry and in the market for a long enough time. The challenge that we see in businesses, especially media businesses today, is that media businesses, filmmakers in general, will work for 3 months of the year, then you won't work for 3 months of the year, then you want to find work for 3 months of the year, but then you still want to be a billionaire at the end of the day. So remember, revenue is the key to success. But if you don't focus on mixing whatever products you put into the market, you're going to end up only surviving on bits and pieces of income every 2 to 3 months, or sometimes even longer. Right now, we're going through what we call a bearish market, where it's going a little bit downward trend. But at the same time, you still need to survive because rent needs to be paid, school fees need to be paid, and all of those other nice things that we don't enjoy that are called bills need to be paid. So, just this on this slide here, what I'm saying is that learn to diversify what products you put out into the market, and that will keep you sustained when you're waiting for that big hit to go to broadcast as well. Moving on very swiftly. Okay, so the topic breakdown. We're going to talk about understanding the market. We're going to talk about the platform and investor lens. We're going to talk about value and cost and alignment. We're then going to talk about content strategy and innovation. I did touch on these topics a little bit earlier as well. And then we're going to talk about pitching strategy. Then we're going to talk about marketing strategies. I can see someone's taking a photo, and we know we're done. We're done. Great. Okay, so let me ask you this question. Who wants to be a famous filmmaker? Hands, please, show me hands. Who wants to be a famous filmmaker? All right. Okay. Great. So how many was that? Show hands again? Okay, great. Fantastic. Great. Wonderful. Who wants to be a successful filmmaker? Okay. That's great. So we're going to talk about successful filmmaking. Because there's a big difference between being a famous filmmaker and being a successful filmmaker. I spoke about it earlier to say that sometimes the sad thing that we see in our industry is that a lot of artists are leaving this side of the world under the wealth brackets that sort of define whether you're rich or poor. But we're spending millions and millions and millions of rands creating products that go into a market that you're not able to recuperate those funds so that you can pay back our dear friends here from the IDC, regardless of whether they want to be the last in and first out, first in and last out, or last in and last out, whatever it is. But also because budgets are tight, and if you don't have a strategy, we don't say if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. So always have a plan, have a strategy, and we'll talk about filmmaking for success. So how to create a film for positive impact. Okay, so what do I mean? I'm going to read it from here because my eyesight is a little bit underwhelming. Alright, so there are two distinct pathways that you can think about in the project. Now, we're going to focus just on visual assets, long form. What we call long form is television series mainly. But there's two distinct pathways. You can have a local first model, or you can have an international first model. And how you approach these, there's two different distinct ways to approach these models that will have a positive impact either in the local market or international market. The problem that we see today is that a lot of South African films have to go outside first before they are recognized internally. And that's a bit sad, isn't it? That we don't support our own brands and products before we have to have validation from outside to support them. So you've got to, or even when you're creating a product for internal market, for our internal market, okay, wonderful. For our internal market, we have to have a global thought pattern around how you position that film or media asset. So that when you're talking to a population of people, and it comes back down to what my colleague from IDC said, it was on his slide, I don't know if he expressed it, there's a size to every market. And that size is made up of a population, it's not just made up out of just This is the size of the market. I don't know. There are metrics that speak to that. There are numbers. There are indexes. There are a whole bunch of studies that have been done to determine the size of each and every market. And that information is available if you go and research it as well. So what are we talking about here? I'm talking about if you're going for the local first strategy, you need to build an authentically local look and feel, and then translate that into global. Right? So what does that mean? Think about cultural authenticity first. So we're sitting in the Eastern Cape. I'll get into this a little bit more detail in later slides. We're sitting in the Eastern Cape, one of the most culturally authentic places in South Africa when it comes to Xhosa culture. Right? Stories, hundreds of thousands of stories that can be told out of that single context. My colleague that was on the panel, Zungu, he told me a story I didn't even know about a location that he shot at. And it was a stunning story that can set a landscape and evolve into a cultural masterpiece such as Shaka Ilembe, which has tracks all over the world in very, very different. If anybody in South Africa or anywhere in the world needs to hear boom, 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 they would know that old Shaka, right? Because of its cultural significance. And then even on TikTok, I think it was in Louisiana, they had a Zulu parade, and Zulu people went crazy over it because of the cultural appropriation. So we have culturally authentic content in South Africa that is able to be exported on many different ways. But that authenticity is what makes South African content win in the market. There's, it's not in my slides, but there's studies that show that on the streaming platforms, so there's 7 main streaming platforms in South Africa, right, that are competing against over 500 international streaming platforms that are available in South Africa online. 7 against 500. Guess who's winning? The 7. More South African audiences are watching those 7 platforms than there are any of the 500. Even Netflix is losing at this point. And that's just a game of costs and economics. So what do you do if you want to do the then you have to look at festival circuits as well and pathways. This was what comes back down to an ability to appeal to an international audience to draw attention back home. And we'll get to that with some of the films that we use as a case study in this. But you have to think about a festival approach. It's going to speed up a little bit. And then you've got to look at prestige-driven distribution. Prestige is the quality that you produce your film at, or your media asset at. The quality has to speak to an international audience as well. So don't just say that, no, I'm going to create a Mollywood type of thing. Mollywood exists because Mollywood had a market to exist. They created demand in the market so they can supply for that demand. But we as South Africans have to meet the demand of a Netflix because Netflix is available now locally. And you will notice that Nigerian films have become a lot better in the last couple of years. Right? They're competing on a global scale now. They compete with Bollywood films. They're competing with South African films, and they're competing with Hollywood films. And I'll argue that they are making as much return on streaming platforms as the South African films or the Hollywood films are making because of their authenticity. It comes back down to that. And then you have to think about an extended revenue pipeline. This just comes down to economies of scale. So we have a population of 63 million people in South Africa. Who's bold enough to say that they want to make a film for every audience? Like for everybody's going to watch their film. Do they have an idea? Let's see a show of hands. Who's got an idea? Everyone's going to watch a film. It's going to interest everybody. I'm not laughing at your idea, but I'm going to. And I apologize if I do offend anybody. When you start talking about marketing, you start talking about demographics and segmentation can be offensive. I don't mean to offend anybody. I just want to be point blank on the fact you're lying to yourself. You're absolutely lying to yourself. You think that everybody has one idea can speak to everyone. And that's when we get into segmentation, marketing, and positioning. And we're going to learn about how to do segmentation, marketing, and positioning simply because you need to know how to segment your market for a specific demographic. If I ask you what washing powder you use, some people like Omo, some people like Surf, some people like, what's that other one? And there's a reason why. Because sometimes you like a different fragrance, right? Everyone here is dressed differently. Why? Because you like different types of clothes. If everybody liked that idea, everyone would be dressed the same, it would be uniform. So understand that concept that you can never create a single product that is ubiquitous to everybody. An entire population of 63 million people will not just buy your product, even in the supermarket. That's why you have different brands. If you go to Pick n Pay, you'll have a Pick n Pay brand tomato sauce, you'll have Heinz, and then you'll have All Gold. Then you'll have some other one that tastes like vinegars mixed in food coloring. But the idea is that those exist specifically for different markets. And if you don't pay attention to those from an economic perspective, you're going to fail to segment your product so that you can speak to a specific market. Then you're going to fail to understand how much that market is worth and how to fill the gap in that market as well. Alright, so let's look at the global narrative strategy, which is we're designing it for international platforms. Because that's the main key access point, international platforms. Nowhere in South Africa other than DSTV are you creating what they call native content for a global market. So if you go and watch your e-entertainment, I think there's only a few products on National Geographic. This guy also known as Simon, and he also runs around looking for snakes and things like that. But that's a South African product that's produced in Durban for National Geographic. I can't remember what it's called. Snakes in the City, that's what it's called. Snakes in the City. There was a show about a whole group of women called The Other Thing. That's a similar name to Sex in the City, yeah. So Snakes in the City is the one with the guy there. But that's commissioned by an American company commissioned in South Africa, which goes back to the idea that we still have a service market within South Africa that is available. I wouldn't say for cheap labor, but for more affordable labor, because because of currency exchanges, etc., it's cheaper or more affordable, cost effective to hire South African filmmakers to produce that content for them at the same quality as they can for the international market. And it still has global appeal, because snakes are, for some reason, everyone is fascinated by snakes. But a lot of people are afraid of them and spiders, so I don't know. People are weird. So we're going to talk about universal themes with local flavor. That's one of the key driving factors of the international first approach. And then you're going to talk about platform first commissioning. So this is where, if you want to go, let's talk about Love Never Lies. I think that was shot in Eastern Cape, in Knysna. Is it Knysna? Oh, is it not Eastern Cape? Sorry, not that. But yeah, it's shot along the coastline in this area. So, I mean, it could easily have been shot in Eastern Cape. But the idea is that it's shot in South Africa. But it's shot for Netflix, who is now consuming South African content at the same quality as international content, but produced locally at a lesser cost. But they still have the same standards. So that's also something to pay attention to. And then you've got algorithm optimized content. So the word algorithm gets thrown around quite a lot. Who understands an algorithm is? So it's a mathematical equation that follows trends and analyzes behavioral patterns so that it can serve you as an individual with what you like before you even know that you want it. It's basically a psychological tool that TikTok uses to present you with exactly the video that you want, exactly when you want it. So that's what hooks you, that's what keeps you there. So with Netflix, for instance, if you watch enough of the same type of content, it's going to bring up anti-open Netflix. It's going to be like, this is recommended for you. And you always see that as an algorithm. Why? Because it tracks your patterns and behaviors. This is what, whenever a website asks you for cookies and wants to give you a cookie, that cookie is going to allow them to be able to track your behavior along other websites so that they can present you with what you want to buy before you even know that you want to buy it. So with digital platforms, the ones that win the most, they understand an algorithm to the T. If I'm a person that likes to watch romantic comedies, it's going to give me romantic comedies. If I'm a person that likes to watch Skopskiet and Donner, it's going to give me Skopskiet and Donner. But at the end of the day, it's what you like as an individual consumer. Again, it comes down to segmentation, targeting, and positioning. But it's going to keep giving you that. So you've got to be able to appeal to that immediately. And I'm only going to spend a lot of time on this slide. I'm going to rush through the rest, I promise. And then obviously you've got immediate global reach based on that approach. You have to look at immediate global reach as well. All right, so here are our case studies. Now everyone, just show of hands. Everyone's seen Tsotsi, right?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Everyone's seen White Wedding?
Yes.
That is yes for everybody. That's answering for everybody. Blood and Water?
Yes.
All right, and then Shaka 11, obviously. So the key two are going to be Tsotsi and Blood and Water. But let me tell a good story about that. So IDC, back in the day, when they were still funding. No, they're funding now. I mean, when you left and then came back. Maybe still. Tsotsi was financed a lot, like quite a large portion. I think it was around 48 million rand was the total budget. But a good portion of that was IDC money that came for that. And that is our Oscar-winning private employee right there. White Wedding was also funded by the IDC. Right? I'm not doing a marketing for IDC. I'm not sure about Blood and Water. I don't think they were too involved in that. But that's a Netflix project. And that went directly to Netflix, straight up. And then Shaka is obviously a multi-choice fund. So, yeah, we need to do something. Tsotsi, co-funded. Private investor, IDC, right? Public. And I think NFA was involved at one point. White Wedding, private investor, putting 6 million rand for that movie. Right? I don't know what the budget is for Blood and Water. Shaka 11 is about 300 million for the whole series. Right? Tsotsi made all of its money back. International first. Actually, it was local first, international second, but to test the market. They found that the name Tsotsi does not work with international markets. So they changed it to hoodlum. Because the term hoodlum is a word in British English. White Wedding was funded by Ken Follett. For the 6 million for White Wedding. I think IDC came in on distribution. I think. I'm not sure. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. Not sure. Yeah. But definitely firm that made its money completely back, made full return on investment, right? 6 million rand made, I think, recruited all in the local market and then made it overseas and still made a profit on that. Blood and Water, fully funded by the Netflix, still on the platform, still recuperating itself back. But it's doing very, very well on the platform. Can't give you numbers, but it is doing well. Netflix likes to hold on to numbers. Shaka 11 is doing very, very well for multi-choice. I can't give you metrics either. But the idea is that it's now being translated and dubbed into other languages to appeal to other markets to recuperate that 300 million per hour. But all of these are absolutely brilliant films or brilliant television series. So you see the top 12 films, the bottom 12 series. All of them have made their money back because of these strategies. Something all similar to these. So, understanding the market. I'm going to start rushing. So, what are the three keys that we use to quickly understand the market? This is top-line analysis. If someone brings me a project today, I'm going to look at these three steps first before I go even deeper than that. Pestle analysis, SWOT analysis, SDP analysis. Who knows what a pestle is? So, okay. Who knows what a SWOT is? Great, fantastic. Who knows what an SDP is? I just spoke about it now. You guys haven't been writing notes, huh? Segmentation, targeting, and positioning for SDP. Okay, so let's look at the local strategy. Pestle analysis. Well, PESTLE stands for political, economic, social, technological, and legal. So you've got to look at all of these impacts, how they impact your script, how they impact your story, what is the story that you're telling, what are the barriers that lie in each one of those realms that are going to prevent you from telling the story like that. So with political, you've got to look at certain things like language, local content quotas. Now, Silibi from SABC was talking about quotas. This is one of the biggest things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to public broadcasting in South Africa. But it also affects network broadcasting in South Africa as well. We've got quotas that are mandated by ICASA that will limit what we call demand in the market because of those quotas. They have to meet those quotas. They report on them on a monthly basis to ensure that there's representation for local and space for local programming on their platforms. So that's one of the key components that are politically constrained the market. But it's also good for you to understand that how those quotas impact certain channels and how to manage your language mix in those channels. For instance, SABC1 is purely Nguni speaking channels. So Nguni speaking programs with a little bit of English here and there. But they, I think, about 65 to 75% Nguni languages. SABC2 is your English, Afrikaans, and other minority languages as well. That's why Mobango used to sit on SABC2. And Generations is on SABC1. Also, that's a number. SABC1 is the top performing channel in the country, with 22 million viewers a week on average. So that also speaks to population demographic when we talk about your social and also your SDP side. So the economic, remember we've got a rand-based budget. Let's talk about exchange rates. How it's much more affordable for international companies to spend money this side. So you have an investor. And this is where I can touch on the 6 million rand investment that came in for White Wedding from Ken Follett. Because at that time, that 6 million rand was around 18 to 20 rand to the pound. And 6 million rand, and we can do the math backwards, was around about 200,000 pounds or so. 250,000 pounds, somewhere around about there. And then that translated into a rand value of 6 million, which gave the team taking some pictures a lot more funding, or enough funding for them to create that masterpiece of a rom-com. So social, authentic South African narrative is talked about already. Technology. So traditional theatre to broadcast to streaming. What we mean about that is that, these days it's a little bit hard to go straight to circular or, yes, they definitely need it. But the idea is that to go from your edit suite to theatre, then to broadcasting to streaming. Like I said earlier, that the streaming part does not exist at that time. So the technological component will always evolve. Like I said before, we used to shoot on 35mm film. Now we're shooting on digital. Now you can go up to 8K, actually go up to 28K. But what sense does it make to shoot a film at 28K when we're releasing it at 4K? If I understand it was KC, resolution, the size of the screen. This is probably a 4K screen because it's so big. But then you get screens that are bigger than this, like IMAX, for instance. IMAX is an 8K screen. So the size of the screen, the quality of the screen, the character of the screen is based on the fidelity of the picture as well. But remember, there's a budgetary constraint to everything that you do, so always pay attention to that technological, because if you're going to go to traditional theatre, you might have to print some 35mm film if you want to release it in certain territories that don't have digital, what they call DCP projectors. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're building a strategy for how you want to go to market. You've got to keep that in mind. That am I going to go DCP? Am I going to go onto a physical delivery? I'm going to go into DVD and I'm going to go onto Blu-ray, because those platforms still do exist, although they are now a little bit more defunct. But you got to think that at the beginning as well. And then legal. So what we talk about in legal mainly, location agreements, intelligence agreements, everything, is what we call a chain of title. And this is so important, and I noticed that we haven't spoken about this, but this is very, very important. I'm going to shut this into another important for IDC as well. They need to have a chain of title. And a chain of title is understanding that each and every aspect of your digital asset has been signed off. You have paid everybody. You have signed agreements for everybody. Anybody that appears. I spoke about having one BCCSA complaint because we didn't get compensation to show someone's face, and we showed it on television. And they wanted to cash in their award of 250,000 rand at that point. But the idea is to know that each and every aspect of a film needs to be covered. All your permits are covered. All of your location agreements have been paid for and signed off on. Even the rights to music are very important. But you have to have all the rights to the music that you use. Otherwise, what will happen is the moment that thing goes onto air, it's got a legal claim against it. Then you'll be paying more than what it will be worth to just steer it in the beginning or change it out. So be very, very aware of that. There are very big legal implications if you get the chain of title wrong. And then environment. Obviously, you talk about ecosystems, and this comes back down to how do you, the logistics conversation that we had, where you decide to shoot in a certain area. Have you thought of a plan to get to that area, and what is the impact of shooting that ecosystem on the film? So we talk about this, quite interesting, that every single shot that you see on screen has a cost to it. And it's quite an interesting concept when you go back and you calculate how much it costs to create one shot in a film. You don't think about, there's a guy that loves to blow things up called Michael Bay. And Michael Bay loved explosions to a point where they blew up a mansion. You don't see that was today. They blew up a whole mansion. But sometimes they'll choose to build a miniature of that and blow that up. Why? Because it costs less for the shots to do it that way. So you always got to think about that. The cost comes back to that. And there's a reason why I'm talking about the cost in that. It's not a business of films, it's market access. It's because at the end of the day, when you go and ask your financing partners, when you go and ask the broadcasters for money, you've got to make sure that first and foremost, you can cost effective on your budget. And second of all, you can make that money back in the market. And then some, because you want to make a profit on that. So make sure that the environment that you choose is going to also be cost effective for that. Right, so SWOT, that's your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So your strengths and weaknesses are always internal, the opportunities and threats are always external. So if you talk about your strengths and weaknesses, right now my strength is not time, and my weakness is the clock. So I'm going to leave that up, so everyone wants to take notes of that. It's quite straightforward. This is kind of the international approach really, but one of the biggest weaknesses that we have in the country is we're 11 different languages. Now 11 different languages makes it very difficult again to create content for everybody. It's quite interesting with Saga 11 because, okay, how many people will enjoy watching media with subtitling? You enjoy it. Are you seriously enjoy it?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
No, I said it's a Russian, I'm talking about like an English movie with subtitles on. Yeah. So imagine a person that can't understand English. The person that can't understand English trying to watch an English movie with subtitles on. Now, the problem with subtitles, you're focusing on the bottom third of the screen the whole time. You're not catching the action. So regardless of how expensive your shot is, the value of that shot is being diminished by the person not actually watching the shot but judging the spelling on the subtitles or the translations. This is why I think the CEO yesterday was saying that you feel like there's nothing you can do right because of the language, right? Because the Jew last night they were saying your colleague, sorry, CEO. But at the same time, that concept lies in everybody. How do you translate one language to another language without losing that authenticity, right? So you'll see at the end of if I get to the end, dubbing is always an option. So if you create content and if you can allow for budgets to become a little bit more available in South Africa, you can actually dub a single language into all 11 different languages plus sign language, and create market access for everybody. That wants to enjoy that. And this is why Shocking Lambda did so well. Because, I said, they managed to dub it into many different European languages. And even though they speak the most beautiful and fragrant Zulu on Shocking Lambda, you must hear it in French, you must hear it in Spanish. It sounds like romance, literally. And that's the story of remaining authentic, but not having to struggle with that loss of value from just having people watching both the things. So think about that as well when you start developing your content. Alright, so also the threats, competing against local content, is always going to be that threat. Your idea is not unique. Multi-choice will tell you, SABC will tell you this. But you're going to go to them and they're like, no, we've got something similar. But that's not if you acknowledge it as a threat, you can get around it. Like I said, when we were starting off modular, I guess, I wasn't the mastermind there, but the mastermind had a good idea of how things work. And literally, Ratapella is Jerry Springer. It's Jerry Springer with a South African flavor. And he literally took Pastor Magamu and said, Pastor, we want you to care, because Ratapella means you care. And we're going to put you there so that people can go and have these stop nonsense next door debates. But it's literally Jerry Springer, if you watch it. There's 199 years. Jesus. You know how many times anyway, cease and desist letters exist. This is what happens when you go and take someone's concept and they feel threatened about it, they try to protect their market share. It doesn't mean you can't do it. Because that's what innovation is. Innovation is being able to take a product and make it better. Every product does it. That's why I can look at my iPhone, you can look at your Samsung, they look similar in one way or another. And you can look at an Oppo, it looks like a Samsung. That's just innovation in different forms. Doesn't mean that your project cannot exist in the same form against something else. You've just got to be very careful against there's copyright laws, so I'm not saying go and copy, but go and look at those laws and understand those laws so that you create an asset that looks like something else, know how much of it to change so that it becomes unique and it has what we call a unique proposition to it that you're able to then go and put into the market without having claims against it. Alright, let's move on. I spoke about segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So with this one, the nice thing with Blood and Water was that it used universal themes. So we're talking about a younger segmentation. We're looking at young adults, demographic of 16 to 34, drama, thriller. Targets, Netflix data identified audiences, clusters across multiple territories. This data exists so well on streaming platforms. Why? Because of those cookies I told you about. Those cookies will drive the algorithm to understand this person likes this type of content. So we're creating this content for this size or this size or this size of a service pool. So we can service these customers on this platform because we understand how many there are. Now that is driven obviously by subscription, how much you pay for your subscriber fees. And that's how they pay for the content, by subscriber fees. So this feeds back into the algorithm to know how big their population and the target size is. And then you position yourself as a South African facing with global themes, right? Questions at the end. All right, cool. So, the market reality check. Local first, we'll have domestic success, but international visibility. This is why you have Knuckle City that traveled the world and got so many beautiful awards because it had international visibility. But also, the success locally was, mild. But at the same time, it was really good for it. It was done very, very well. And then algorithm for global narrative, algorithm optimization with cultural authenticity. Spoken about that. One thing I want to stress at this point, before we get to this, as we get into the investor platform lens, is that I forgot my point. Let me move on. I forgot my point. I'll move on. All right. So when you're looking at, this is again more microeconomics, supply and demand. So Michael Porter, he was one of the founders of McKinsey. McKinsey is one of the big five consulting firms in the world. So he came up with 5 forces that affect any economy. So here we talk about supplier power. So what does supplier power mean? Those are the sales agents and festival programmers that control access. So those are the people that are going to sit there, watch your film and say yes or no. Those are the suppliers that have power over that. Then you're still going to consider the buyer power, which are the international distributors that demand cultural familiarity. So this is why I say SABC 1 carries a mandate for Nguni language. They earlier spoke about how having a new market entrant, which is threats of substitutes, impacted their bottom line in terms of viewership sales from their advertising and sales funding. So that's a real threat. But that also comes into knowing that you're going to have a threat from every other asset that sits in the market that can steal eyeballs. It's all a game of eyeballs. Steal eyeballs from your asset that you put in that same platform. Why should I choose to watch this over that? It's the same thing as when you go to a cinema and you want to decide whether you're going to watch Rocky 5 or 6, 7, whatever, or Fast and Furious 22. You know what I mean? You've got to be understanding of that mindset of your own when you go out and consume somebody else's product. And why did you choose this over that? And that's where you come back and you say, okay, so there's substitutes in the market for that. And then there's competitive rivalry as well. That speaks to substitutes as well. But you compete against established international content as well. So when you get to the cinema, or you go onto Mzansi Magic, or you go onto SABC 2 or 3, etc., but mainly the pay TV channels, there's going to be, if you're doing Real Housewives of Fosloras, there's going to be a Real Housewives of Orange County as well. So you're still competing against that. So that's why the quality thing is important. I'm going to jump forward now because I think I'm hammering this one today. So applying the five forces model against your content, but also looking at what exists in the market and why it exists in the market in terms of the streaming platforms available, also could help you develop your content better. So again, the contrast, I will share this slide with you guys because it's going to be long. Here's another important one. You've got to ask yourself Peter Drucker's 5 important questions. So those 5 important questions are usually what drive product development in the service industry as well as in product industry as to what the market is looking for. It's very market focused. in terms of that. So Peter Drucker wrote a book called The Five Most Important Questions. The first question he asks is, what is your mission? So when you go to a distributor, you have to be able to tell that distributor what your mission is. I'm sure your funding partners will also ask you this. And then you must know that there's a cultural bridge versus the commercial acquisition versus a content filler. So you've got to know where that product is going to sit so that you know what the mission is. Are you creating a product that's specifically for that market, and then you can get to understand what that market needs to, what you need to do to fulfill that mission. So then you got to ask yourself next, who are your customers? Are they festival buyers? Is your customer the algorithm? Because the algorithm can be a person as well that understands the trends and knows what their customers are looking for as well. Or local audiences first. If you go to, there's buying power, what is it called? Anyway, there's a lot of research companies in South Africa that will give you the, what's this thing called? They'll give you statistics on who's buying what. We used to use a measurement called LSM, which is the Living Standard Measurement. Now we've gone to SEM, which is the Social Economic Measurement. But those measurements actually have specifics on what people are spending in which tax bracket. And it can tell you how to tailor certain aspects of your content to speak to those individual people. So that's how you can know who your customer is as well. What do your customers value? Again, those standard measurements can tell you what the customers value. Are they looking for prestige? Are they looking for engagement? Are they looking for cultural authenticity? We know for a fact that the biggest consumer locally of Shaka Ilembe, for instance, was Zulu-speaking people because it's their culture and they wanted to understand that. Is the story authentic enough for them to understand? That's why they had a little bit of backlash to say, oh no, Shaka Ilembe was not authentic as per what we understand it to be. But that's also subjected to themselves. So understanding that you could tell a story that not everyone's going to appreciate. You watched Invictus. Invictus was shot in South Africa, directed by Clint Eastwood. But with a show like that, not every South African would say that that was the best show ever made, or one of Idris Elba, or The Long Walk to Freedom with Idris Elba. But internationally, they don't know the true story. That's why when I say boom, 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 everybody knew that was Shaka. But how many of you knew that was not a real story of Shaka? A real story of Shaka was actually created by the director. But is that rain or is that trolley? Is that rain?
It's rain.
That's crazy.
It's rain.
Yes. That was very traumatizing. But yeah, so sorry to kill your Hindikele childhood dreams, but the original Shaka was made up. It was literally made up by a guy that came. We had funding. I think it was 500,000 rand back then. Funding. I think it was somewhere around there to create this show called Shaka, and some of it was made up. Actually, a lot of it was made up. But even worse is if you go onto YouTube, you'll find the second part of that called Shaka and the Citadel. It exists. They just don't talk about it. So I don't know why I went into that trip, but anyway. So what your customers are? Yes, that way. Cultural authenticity. So cultural authenticity is a subjective authenticity, but it does speak to a culture of people. So you have to be able to speak to that cultural authenticity so that when you translate it into another culture, it still has those resonant value to it. And then what are the results you're looking for? So you're looking for awards. Again, you want to go for awards. Why? It's that prestige, the validation of that prestige. And then you've got to look for viewing hours. Now, viewing hours is quite interesting because, again, streaming platforms are so data-driven. They can tell when you push play, they can tell when you hit pause, they can also tell whether you finished it or not. How many of you have finished every single film that you've watched on Netflix? Like opened it, finished it, and then you're like, that was a great film. You've all got films that are still sitting there half-watched, right?
Yeah.
All of those are feeding into the algorithms. They know. Now, this is why you don't have a Queen Solo season 2 yet. because of like why did some people not finish? I'm not saying it was bad. I think Queen Sona was great. But you've got to think about the reason why they did not commission it for part two. Another algorithm that could pick up whether you watch it is actually a DSTV box. They know when you turn it on, when you turn it off. It also play your data. TAMS, I think, used to do it for SABC. I could be wrong. TAMS used to have, so they used to do, the Broadcast Research Council used to have a sample group of like 100,000 people or whatever it was. And those people would constantly, they'd have a box on top of their TV that reports back to tell them whether what you're watching, how long you watched it for, was it interesting or was it not, and then feed back into the data that a public broadcaster would use to create content. Okay, cool. And what is your plan? Like I said, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. Value and cost alignment. Again, okay, so I'm going to briefly touch on this. I said I'll share this slide. You have to know how much to budget for. Before you go back, and now you're going to start asking, an investor for money so that you can have your 51% so that you can go to the IDC and get your 49%. All of those things matter when it comes to the budget. Because if you don't know that money exists in the market, you're not going to be able to make that money back. So, what does that mean? SABC, MultiChoice, ETV, and others. There's not many others, but for all those channels, every single slot on those channels has what we call a cost per minute. That's driven by advertising sales. So that cost per minute translates back into how much is the threshold that I can make this asset for to sit in that time slot. That also goes back to how many people are watching the channel in that time slot, so that the broadcaster knows how much to charge an advertiser that wants to advertise in that time slot. So you are almost locked into that as a filmmaker to creating a series that meets that budget. Otherwise, if you overshoot that budget, you're not going to have money to produce that content. That's a very, very important thing to note. It also comes back down to, I hate this, I really, really hate this example, but I'm going to make it anyway. There was a film called State of Violence that was produced by Carlo Matabane back in 2014, I think it was. Carlo was a great filmmaker, back in the day. The film, I think, was produced for about 4 million rand, that film. It went to cinema, and it only made 57,000 rand back. Right. It wasn't a bad film. But it was also, this is what I was going to say earlier, if you don't have a marketing plan and a marketing strategy that is tied into your budget, how do people know to go and watch your film? So I think that's another thing that we might need to actually discuss and focus on marketing as part of the recruitment and filmmaking process. It's a Hollywood model. A Hollywood model means that if a film is made at 100 million rand, that film has to make 200 million rand back, or 200 million. Was it 200 billion? 200 million, yes. $200 million. If they make it for $100 million, it has to make 200 million back in the market, and then they'll say it's a success. Otherwise, it's a box office flop. Right? That $100 million that they spent on that film is probably $50 million on creating the film and another $50 million on marketing the film before you see it. And that's the Hollywood model. In South Africa, we don't really do that. We spend 100% of our budget on films, we create them, we don't market them, people don't know about them until after. Next thing the thing is showing as a rerun with Anacondas on ETV before you know that the film exists. But that's also another shortfall that we have in our market that I really implore that we look at. Yes, key financial insight. This is the important slide. Your budget must align with your distribution strategy, not your creative ambitions. Like I said, it's going to be offensive, but that's probably the most important thing. When I think like a business person, I don't care about your feelings. I'm sorry. Tell me your story, because your story makes money. Does your story pay the people that worked on it? Does your story enable an economy to drive itself? California is bleeding right now because it's just too expensive to make films in Hollywood right now. There's a film incentive. I think we're getting somewhere with the DTIC, but there's a film incentive for filming in South Africa. They'll give you, I think, 20% to 22% of your money back. I'll check it. 25%? Yeah, it's somewhere there. In fact, my brain is electric. But yeah, so incentives are great for driving economies for shooting into film. So now Hollywood is moving into Canada, they're moving to the UK because of the incentives. They're shooting in Morocco. So many films have been shot in Cape Town film studios, they've even lost count. But the idea is that no one cares about your creative ambitions. This is the first question that I ask you. Do you want to be famous or do you want to be successful? All right. Right, so return on investment metrics. For local first, cost per territory acquired. Remember I spoke about a cost per minute? This is the same, cost per territory acquired. Every territory that you're distributed, if I'm a distributor, distributors work on different territories. There are some great distributors in South Africa, there are just very few distributors in South Africa. But the cost per territory means that South Africa's local market has a cap. You will only be able to gain 10 Rand in the market, and if that market can only give you 10 Rand, you can't shake it down for more. You might be able to shake it down for more, but you might have to spend more on marketing. You might have to shake it down for more, but you might have to spend more on merchandising. It's always a trade-off somewhere. So just always be aware of that. And then for the global narrative, it's cost per global viewing hour. So as I said, the algorithm will always test how many hours have you viewed, because they'll pay you back by the hour based upon how many hours were spent. Because I don't know how many of you can watch two things at once on one Netflix account. You know, like this eye is watching Blood and Water, this eye is watching White Wedding, and you're trying to make sure you understand it. It doesn't work. So they calculate like that. This is why Netflix stopped people from sharing their accounts amongst many people, and they started clamping down on that. I think DSTV is doing the same with the Showmax as well. SABC, cut off. Let's make money, cut off that. Risk mitigation. Traditional market is always market uncertainty. Now, what market uncertainty means is sometimes the data does not exist so that you know that that data is reliable to make a decision. In business, we call that data-driven decision making. But at the same time, sometimes there are too many economic fluctuations that happen. For instance, Donald Trump has been wreaking havoc on all economies since he came in. There was a film tariff that he passed, he presented it as an option. And that's also what started rocking the world a bit. But then you must also think about the cost of a ticket. How much does it cost to go to the cinema these days? When you're going there, you're going for a date, you're in love. You go out, you buy her flowers as a man. Talk about a man. So you buy her flowers, you go out, you then obviously going to go for dinner before or after. You're going to get to you're going to pay for a ticket of a movie. Then you're going to buy a slushie, you're going to go buy some whispers. You're going to go and buy, there's two of everything at this point. You're going to sit there, you're going to stare at a screen in the dark together, not talking. You're going to hope she enjoys it. Then you're going to leave, and then, awkward ride home if she didn't enjoy it. But if she did, then maybe you go to the club after the day. What is the cost of that night to a single individual? Now you've got to think about that when you start saying, I want people to spend money on it. Why? And this is also very important. The film industry relies on what we call disposable income. I will not spend my needs. I'm not going to go and do that, all of that. If I still have rent to pay and these nice things for bills that happen every single month. I need to have an additional, how much does that outing cost? 1,000 Rand? 1,500 Rand? For two people? That's the cost of creating a film to be recruitment costs of that film coming back, box office wise. As opposed to Netflix and chill. I know it's bad, but that's the term. It is the term. You're going to sit at home, you're going to sit on the couch, you're going to watch Netflix, whether you finish the movie or not is up to you. But the idea is that that's going to cost you 194 Rand or 4 screens for a month as opposed to 1,500 Rand. You get what I'm saying? So you've got to be cognizant of how much do I want my customer to spend on that outing to make it worth it. Because I don't want to have that awkward drive home after buying flowers and slushies and maybe a teddy bear here, whatever. Because half the time, who's paying for that? The guy. Right? But you've got to think about it. That's socioeconomics. And that thought process, if you don't embed that in how compelling is what I'm writing for the markets to consume it, then you're going to fail on entry. That's the plan that you need to have, right? So, again, market uncertainties. If the Rand-dollar exchange happens, the cost of the ticket goes up. I think it's about 200 Rand to go watch a film for one seat in the cinema. So that's the recruitment cost of operating the cinema. If a cinema looks like this, there's something called rent that the cinema pays. Their money model is putting bums in seats. That's their money model. So think about that as well. And then guaranteed fees is that, you have to negotiate again. The cost per minute, the CPM for a traditional broadcaster is usually set by the sales team way in advance, where a lot of the platforms are guaranteed only on the subscription cost. But let me ask you this question. How many of us have had a transaction go off on either Apple or Samsung Pay or whatever, where it says Netflix try to take money and fail? Now, at scale, how many people are not paying their Netflix fees on time every single month? Yes, they have mitigating factors, but you've got to keep that in mind as well. That you can't have a guaranteed fee unless they know how many people are going to buy that Netflix for them. I don't know how I'm doing on time. I think I'm 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to rush now. So content, strategy, and innovation. Let me cook. You know that means? Let him cook. Let him cook. Story structure, hero's journey, and trend analysis. I'm going to okay. Who understands the hero's journey in this room? I'm not going to. Thank you. Joseph Campbell, a writer, did something called the hero's journey. Tsotsi, typically the hero's journey, follows it to the T. And the reason why that's important is that it's an algorithm in your brain psychologically that triggers. Now, this comes back down, I think you mentioned it about attention spans. Who spoke about attention spans? We spoke about attention spans getting shorter. How long does it take you to scroll to the next TikTok video or Instagram post? How many seconds? Quarter of a second. Literally, you know whether you want to watch the next one or not. And if you think about it, how long, if it's slightly interesting when you're watching it before you scroll? 3 seconds, roughly. 3 to 5 seconds. And then, how long is that video on average? It's no more than 2 minutes. Max. 3 minutes maybe, if you're lucky. That is now people are becoming more accustomed to those attention spans. So now to sit through something like Interstellar, that's 3 hours of sitting there. Who watched the whole thing of Lord of the Rings? The whole 3 things of Lord of the Rings? In one sitting. Well done. No, that's great. Love it. And what is it? It's just 9 hours long. Okay, the Star Wars saga. That's about 15 hours, 16 hours. Alright? Now think about it. Remember, back in the day, you'd sit in a film like Pearl Harbor and there'll be intermission. Halfway through the film, you sit there and like intermission, you go out to sleep, have a smoke, come back. They don't even do that anymore. And that's the challenge that we're facing now, especially with our younger audiences. Now, the things that trends move generationally. I don't want to get too deep into this. This is more economics. But trends move generationally. As we grow up, I'm going to assume that some of us are on the youth levels, but as we grow, we carry our traits and trends with us. With the new generation coming in, I'm going to paint a very scary picture for you. How many parents in the room have kids that are below the age of 3 that are already obsessed with a cell phone? Okay, how many parents in the room? Okay, there's like 3 parents. Okay, cool. 5, 6. Okay, we say this. Kids below the age of 6, then let me spread out here. It's below the age of 6. Because that's generation beta. They just come in now, this year I think it was generation beta. Those kids from the age of 2, they know how to use a cell phone. Because they understand how to click it and all of these things. Those kids are tech savvy. Those are the kind of kids that can hear you by yourself as an adult, talking to a speaker that's sitting somewhere in the house that answers back to you. You say, hey Siri, and then something speaks in the room, and it's like a ghost with it. Hey Alexa, hey Google, whatever. Those kids are growing up in that environment right now with self-driving cars and AI assistants that live in the cloud. That's the world that they're growing up in. We grew up with a telephone that was still plugged into a wall, that if you wanted someone to call you, you'd have to camp by the phone and wait till a specific time. Dangerous as well, that people were on time back then. People had a schedule back then. Why? Television was on schedule. That's what linear television was. Now, television is on demand. So think about those trends shifting and shaping themselves. We always complain, maybe as older you get, people complain like, oh, the kids of today. Maybe your parents will say, oh, the kids of today when you were young. Same thing's happening now. So bear that in mind as well. If you're creating content for the next generation, you have to be very aware of what the trends are. I'm going to move very fast over this. So I don't know the shows means. Shows that seem like other shows. I'm almost done, guys. I really am almost done. Toti will look very similar to a Brazilian movie called City of God. Poverty, Crime, and Redemption. Everyone seen City of God? Yes, beautiful movie. Blood and Water will look a little bit like Elite, same thing, school themes. Class, privilege, teen drama. White Wedding, a big Catholic wedding. Beautiful. Cultural comedy translation. And then Shaka Ilembe, Vikings, The Crown. Cultural epics. Innovation opportunities with their content. You don't want to steal their profit. These will work in our markets. This would not improve sci-fi films are viable. What Susanna showed us earlier, that was visually beautiful. It looked like Wakanda Forever. And, sci-fi, historical, prehistory comedy, pre-colonial history, translation era narratives. I know that they've been, SABC's The Rain Queen. There was something about The Rain Queen that came up, the story of Queen Majaji. It's beautiful. But there's more stories to be told. Just do it properly. Contemporary tech entrepreneurship. There's many stories you can tell. Skinny Spool Socks is going to be making cars soon. It works. You guys know that? Skinny Spool is getting into cars. Okay. Look it up. It's innovating, from socks to cars. Supernatural. African mythology. I co-directed a film called Ilangaki on multitudes. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It was a beautiful supernatural film about witchcraft. But anyway, witchcraft with lightning and stuff. It did so well on multi-choice. The numbers were incredible. But it does work. Those supernatural African mythology meets modern world. It's Wakanda Forever as well, like literally. Execution strategies, tell me your idea. Okay, let's quickly talk about order qualifiers and order winners. I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. What are order qualifiers? Order qualifiers are what you must have in order to qualify to exist in a market. These are non-negotiables. These are what puts you into the minimum standards so that you're able to access the market itself. So technical quality standards are minimum. Cultural authenticity and flexible credibility. clear rights and ownership, that's the chain of title we spoke about, proven local audience engagement, and award potential and recognition. All the winners are what are your unique service propositions that are differentiators for you in the market, right? So unique cultural perspective, strong visual storytelling. That's Shakeel looks beautiful, does a lot. Thank you. Zeno Peterson did a great job. Strong visual storytelling. The universal themes within specific context. Established filmmakers and talent. That's why I could say Zeno because that's Zeno's how he sees the world. Cultural export program support. So this is where I always appeal to the NFDF and the IDC to really support young filmmakers that want to get their film out there as part of their marketing plan. But they do that already. So just make sure that you get yourself into those programs once you created your film so you can go and sell your film overseas as well. And then this is authentic storytelling that has that international audiences haven't seen, right? So the same thing goes for international approach, but you have to have algorithm-friendly hooks, binge-worthy series. I said, like you want to feel like you want to watch the next episode. That's how you create hooks at the end. I'll come back next time on Love is War, whatever. I don't know. Creates that I want to see more, Okay, so yeah, make sure that you have that binge-worthiness that keeps people hooked. Who watched Game of Thrones? That was another thing that was very long, and then it failed at the end somehow. But that was binge-worthy. I mean, literally, I'll sit there for 10 hours, I'll be like watching it, and then I'm like, how long have I been here? And you love to hate. The most hated characters were in that movie, like Jeffrey. Jeffrey was like a hated character, but that's what kept you watching it, right? And then you also had this one, Breaking Bad, where Skylar White, you hated that woman, but you still came back and watched it because you love to hate. So, No, you love to hate. That's the thing. Love and hate is two sides. This is psychology again. Never mind. Crossover appeal. Crossover means that you can create characters out of characters that are existing already. And then, obviously, essay setting is a unique sales point. So this is global stories that can only be told authentically from Southern Africa. All right, common pitching mistakes. For a local film, over-explaining the cultural context instead of universal themes. We understand culture as much as possible, so that you can trust me. When you get into a pitching room with the right pitching people, they've heard the story before. They just want to know how you're going to do it differently. That's standard. I don't know how many times I've heard the same story told differently. That's what happens. So you're not going to walk in with a unique idea. That'll be very naive of you. But the idea is that tell it in such a way that you believe it's never been told before. That's the hook. But don't overplay the cultural context, especially when you all understand the culture anyway. And then B, which is the international approach, losing authentic voices while chasing global appeal. Maintain that authenticity as a South African. And then both approaches, understanding what success means to your specific distribution partner. If you are doing a Christian film, there are distribution partners out there that only deal with Christian films. Their success would be getting people to believe in God. That's their success model. So if your film will get more people to believe in God or believe in Jesus or that, I did say I was going to be a little bit offensive, so please don't take offense. But that's the idea. That's their value proposition. They want to get more people into churches. They want to get more people into Christianity. That is what drives their bottom line success. So if their line of success is that, don't misunderstand them and then go and sell them something like what's this one, Da Vinci Code that speaks about conspiracy theories and whatever. You're going to lose them entirely. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, I'm going to try to capture your audience. There's the 5 C's of the 5 C's framework, 5 C's of marketing, and then the 7 P's of marketing as well. I'm just going to jump over that. Okay. So reality check. Local first does not mean local only marketing. So remember, always if you invested into a film that is in a local market, there was a film, beautiful film done by Jamel called Of Good Report. Touchy topic, but that film did well internationally at international film festivals. It's actually a really, really great film. The context of the film was a little touchy, but it was a great film. Another one called Ingaeba. There was also, I'm sorry. My tongue doesn't really trick that way, I'm so sorry. But at the same time, it was a beautiful film. But it tested the cultural narrative as well. The cultural context was tested. But sometimes they say, there's no such thing as bad marketing, so as long as people are talking about it. And then global narrative does not mean abandoning the local cultural capital. Just because you're speaking to the world, don't lose yourself. Like, don't go to America for 2 days and then be like, yo, what's up, dog? How you doing? Don't lose that. Get there and speak like you have to speak like an African. Because you are an African. And don't try and be dissolved into this idea that a successful filmmaker must just be, what's his name? Antoine Fuqua. Or, that's the only time, or what's this guy's name? The guy that's just had a lawsuit now. Tyler Perry. You are South African. You will make your name as South African. There's a beautiful filmmaker and a very good friend of mine, Oh, that guy, he can pitch anything to you. He can pitch ice to a snowman, I swear. And the snowman will buy it. Because he doesn't lose his African. He walks into the room wearing African clothes. Anyway, success metrics must align with the distribution strategy. So when you look for your results, your distribution strategy should be aligned with the success metrics. You must know what you're looking for. Have a KPI, a key performance indicator that will let you know, and now we're successful. This also meets your return on investment. Because how are you going to know? I don't know what your debt service coverage ratio is. Sorry, I don't know. Do you have a debt service coverage ratio? What is it? Is it 2%? Oh, okay. All right. Because I know African Bank, which is doing wonderful work in Africa, in the whole of Africa. They haven't really penetrated as much in South Africa yet. They've got a debt service coverage ratio of 0.25%, or 0.22%, somewhere around there. I'll get it right. So what that means is that you need to have a recoupment of around 22% per year of whatever film you're making. So if you don't have a target amount of whatever you're producing on the recoupment of your distribution strategy, you're not going to be able to meet that service coverage ratio, and then you're going to default on your loan to pay back. Okay. Key takeaways. Let's do this crafting stuff here quickly. Choose your path early. Distribution strategy should inform development, not follow it. Right? Budget and content decisions flow from distribution choices, not the other way around. And the success metrics differ dramatically between approaches. Go back on the slides when you get them. Go and look at what those order qualifiers and order winners are, and go and set up those success metrics so that you know what your results are when you look at your Peter Drucker's 5 questions, 5 most important questions. Both approaches can work. You can make a successful South African film by having a global approach. Sometimes it might not work in the global market, but it will definitely perform well locally. Right? There are films, beautiful films that are created. I know yesterday was one of them. I don't know if Susan is still here, but yesterday was one of them. There he is. Hi. Yesterday did very, very well locally. Right? It did very, very well in terms of awards internationally as well. It's a brilliant film. I don't know if you know the Nazi yesterday. That was Oscar nominated. Right? Actually, the year after Toti, that was Oscar nominated, which is a great follow-up as well. We recently won an Oscar, I think it was for The Last Ranger, yes. South Africa won a short film Oscar as well this year. So, yeah, round of applause for South Africa. You're winning everything, by the way. Right, so local first requires patience, definitely patience, guys. It's a long game. You're not going to be successful overnight, and your show is not going to be successful overnight. It needs cultural confidence. You need to be confident in culture. As I said, Tebogo Malope walks into a room dressed in an African attire and really, like, he doesn't, no, he's just going to pitch himself, basically. And that's how he wins a lot of these pitches. It's great. And they have a festival strategy that allows for your show to have reach, your film to have reach. And global narrative requires platform relations, definitely platform relations. A lot of the time, I was asked a question actually about how to get access to Netflix. It's very difficult to get access to Netflix if you're a first-time filmmaker, just a writer, you don't have a producer. So don't lie to your funding partners and say, I've got a relationship with Netflix without a middleman. Because it's best advised to have a middleman that can speak to them for you and understand their metrics and is able to strike a deal with them without you having to do all that work as well. And then have format discipline. Format discipline means that if you're sticking to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, you know that there's an inciting incident that happened at 5 minutes in. There's another incident that happened at 20 minutes. It is a format. And then if you're speaking to NBC, for instance, so we did Real Housewives of Johannesburg season 3 before it was canned. And then it was canned again. But that also fed into a template for another show that I produced called Pastors' Wives on Honey. I don't know if anyone saw that. So when Honey TV was still up, we did a show called Pastors' Wives, which was, again, format. We borrowed a format that worked. That was an NBC-owned format. We translated that into a different environment, but we kept that format discipline. We still had the interviews, we still had that. That format discipline drove that as a flagship show for an entire new channel. This was back in 2021. Tell you about another day, I don't have time right now. And then universal appeal. You have to have that universal appeal. Those are themes that carry across. There are a number of them. Love, guilt, romance, redemption. All of those are global themes that you can interweave into a storyline that will help other people buy into it. So the South African advantage is that authentic storytelling in English. Because we can tell our stories in English and dub them, or we can tell our stories in other languages and dub them into English. Dubbing is always an option. So think about dubbing and know that you can tell the story in many, many different languages without losing its cultural authenticity. Diverse casting, naturally built in. We've got amazing talent in this country, guys. Amazing talent. And amazing up-and-coming talent as well. There's always new talent growing from the grass, at grassroots level as well. Unique perspectives on universal themes and a growing global appetite for South African content. Questions for your project. Are you building for awards, recognition, or algorithm discovery? Ask yourself that. Is your budget aligned with your distribution ambition? Ask yourself that. Can your story travel without losing its authenticity? Ask yourself that. Do you have relationships with your chosen distribution pathway? Ask yourself that. Is it? I can take questions, yeah. Okay. Any questions? No questions? How? Was that? There's one question. There you go. Thank you. I don't feel left out. Number one question.
Thank you very much. I think from a creative point, that just kills everything. It feels like it's just a follow plan. So where does the creative come in?
You can never ignore creative. But let me ask you this. Okay, I don't know how to put this up. I don't want to be offensive, guys. I've been offensive already. I'm trying to be nice. So creatively, no one cares about your ideas. They only care about how much ideas make. And the reason why is this. Let me give you a point blank example. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. You've got a project. How much does it cost to make a film these days? Call it 10 million rand to make a film these days. How much does a property cost? How much does a property cost? Less than 10 million, right? I would hope that, we can have more than 10 million in houses. But, property most probably, we'll be looking at our local economy, costs less than 10 million rand. But you're asking for an investor to put 10 million rand, or investors put 10 million rand into something that they can never touch. It's an intangible product. Yes, it's got a recruitment for a lifetime. It lasts forever. Today I can go and watch a film, Snow White, that was made in 1937. I can still go and watch that on SAA, literally, on the flight. Because they're still making money for them, making money for Disney. But understand that you're asking somebody to give you their hard-earned money, and even if it's government money. It's hard-earned taxpayer money. That's my money, that's your money, that's that money, that's anyone's money. That money needs to be put to good use. Otherwise, what happens? That cannot be rain. That's not rain. It's sundowns. Oh. Sorry. So you're asking. Sorry. You're asking taxpayers, right? Even if the NFA funds you, if the SABC funds you, if the IDC funds you, if the ECDC funds you, it's taxpayer money. You're going to complain if they keep funding the same projects that flop and keep going flop. That's another reason why we're in this bearish market right now. That's on a downward trend. So you've got to think, yes, have a great idea, but you can mold that idea into such a way that it has mass market appeal. I tell you now, there'll be the same story that you can tell 10, 20, 15 different ways. And regardless of how you tell that story, it will meet a different audience. So I'm going to just touch on that last point of Nolanism. Christopher Nolan. He's got a theme that runs through every one of his films, although they are all long. Time. All his films about time. Go and watch them. From Memento, okay, I think Batman was not about time, but Memento, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet, all of those about time. Inception. Right. So, regardless of how you tell that story, time becomes the golden thread for Nolanism. But you can tell each one of those stories in any different way. One of the major themes in Interstellar was love. Woven in there. Remember, you have creative license. Literally, being a filmmaker is playing God. Why? Because you can create characters, you can kill characters, and no one's going to take you to jail for it. You've got God in you as a creator. So exercise that. Don't be afraid just because I'm saying to go make money. Why would you buy a Haval over a BMW? Right? Cost comes into play, right? Preferences come into play. You're thinking maintenance or long term. That's what an investor thinks about. An investor says, I'm going to put 10 million rand of my hard-earned money into this. I want to see my money back. And I want to see my money back with a little bit of, in Tswana we call it dinamani, which are like cars. You know, your money must grow. Your money must be an investment that grows with it. So you must also like, you also want to be a filmmaker that's going to own a 10 million rand house one day. So go and make a film that's going to make you 10 million rand back off of a 5 million rand budget. They're on to you. Fantastic. Oh, there's another question.
So yesterday, me and my friend, it was a few days ago, me and my friends were sitting together and we were like, okay, let's go on Netflix, let's watch something. And I've always seen, I don't know if you've ever watched, the question is about Kings of Club, so I'm hoping you have watched it. Okay, but anyway, so it's on Netflix and we're watching it and some of us are hating on it, others are like, nah, why are you hating on this show? And I think it was in the third or fourth episode, but in one of the shots, there was a cameraman just in the shot.
No.
And my question would be, I think we were shocked that it felt like they were representing South Africa so poorly because we know the talent we have here. And my question would be, how is that get on Netflix?
So clearly that has nothing to do with this, but I can answer that question for you because that became a huge topic of debate at the industry level as well. It was a very unfortunate event. In fact, without naming anybody, the editor did admit that it was what they call a conform issue. So if you're an editor, what it means is that this is the reason why you shoot in 8K or you shoot in 4K or whatever. They resize your screen in case there's a shot that it has to move around or there's something that's on the edges that needs to be cut out. So sometimes you have like a boom that might dip or might have reframes it. So what happens when they put it through, that piece of information on the edit went away and then they didn't pick it up in quality control. So that was the era. But if you go and watch that episode now, it's been replaced already. That's how quick they were. The unfortunate part is that, again, the audience doesn't care about your feelings. The moment someone found that, it became free for all for clout. I wanted views. Oh, Kings of Joburg, yeah, bam. You know, so it's unfortunate, but you've got to be, that's again, order qualifiers and order winners. You've got to meet those minimum standards and protect them at all costs, because that's what makes your quality minimum standards work. But yeah, it was an unfortunate event, and please go and watch Kings of Joburg.
Here's a question.
Okay.
Professor, you mentioned the Afro-Exim Bank and the things they do on the continent.
Yes.
Touch on that new opportunity about Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Oh, yes.
Apart from Afro-Exim, as a bank funding, but what that market moves, because we used to dream about going to sell in America and Europe. Now, what's the opportunity on that continent?
Okay, great. So there's Africa Free Trade Agreement has unlocked generally trade across Africa. That's what Africa Free Trade Agreement. But anyway, across Africa, because it's important to increase markets, increasing neighbors. Economies of scale are very important, guys. So to increase the value of a market, I touched on the fact that South Africa's population is 63 million people. America's market is around 300 million people. That's why they're able to recuperate so much more from their domestic sales than South Africa is. And that's what a free trade agreement across multiple territories allows you for, because you're able to go into those territories, look for opportunities in those territories, and then there's less tariffs and less import and export taxes for that. So you're able to do better and free trade between those countries. And that also is what will align if you're able to create a global narrative, just like some of the films that we've seen as a case study, that can penetrate those markets and perform in those markets as well. So that's what Dr. Hen is alluding to, is that being able to understand what... We also have a trade agreement with Canada, right? I think it's Canada as well, and I think Mexico as well is somewhere in the works. But there are these... which one? And Brazil, yes, and Brazil. So there are a lot of other trade agreements as well that are exploitable to the market. Why? Because essentially you're creating a product for market consumption. And the product market fit can work for that. So I don't want to beat that up because I'm really getting, boot off stage. But yeah, we're moving on. So I think that's the last question. Thank you for that question. I think it's a very important question. I am available afterwards if anyone wants to talk to me. Thank you so much for being a great audience. I hope I didn't bore you.
Thank you very much. That was good. That was fantastic. Yeah, I think I allowed it to go over time because I was also so glued to the presentation. Simon is here tomorrow, again, if you would like to interact with him. But I think he did trigger a few topics that we can maybe explore next time and next year in depth. So tomorrow, I think this was a nice start for us. Tomorrow we're having a masterclass that talks about the business of film. So I think we can unpack that a bit more in that session. But now we've come towards the end of the formal program, and we are going into the screenings. We don't have much time. As we can hear, we are competing with the bash downstairs. So we have essentially about an hour of the screenings, which will start here. There's some tea outside because it's quite cold. So if you'd like to grab a cup of tea and perhaps come inside and then watch the screenings for the next hour or so, and then we'll close the program after that. Thanks. Production team, can we start? Afternoon once again, everybody. We're going to start with the screening of the first film. I believe it's a documentary called Golobeni. So the filmmaker is here. I just don't see him now. Is it you? Oh, it's the ladies. All right. Okay. Thank you. If there's any questions, the ladies will be on stage after the screening. Thank you. Enjoy.
Adult Center is a community that was once self-sufficient. Ramsey Seko recalls those days. Kolobedi is a story of entitlement, deceit, and the abuse of power. Adult Center is a community that was once self-sufficient. Ramsey Seko recalls those days.
ukuze sikwazi ukudla ngoba awuyikho into esiyithola sithola ngokubalima uthengisa into obuyilimile usho ukwazi ukuba abantu abakho balalo besini imfuyo idla emadlelweni asendaweni akabikho ayeswakheleyo kodwa iyadla kona khona la ezindaweni zethu ake imali yona into bengingayifuni ke nawe kwakuyizona ngoba kaloku kule ndawo njengoba ndisithi neminyaka eyi-15 ndadela sekukhona abantu esebashonayo abangcwabelayo njengoba ngibebuza umbuzo akawusabe uzomayina abantu sendibangcwabile bona bazakuthiwa.
Kolobeni is also mineral rich. In these regions lie titanium, iron, rutile, zircon, and ilmenite, used in the manufacture of things like aircraft, cell phones, and ceramics.
Imali sidlalona sisolesibandle asidingi ngoba azobumali ngokuzobulala izilwane naselwandle asifuni ngazo kodwa baleyo lasisikhulisele ukuhlela asifuna simusho.
In 2002, these rare minerals were discovered. A subsidiary of an Australian company, Mineral Sand Resources, or MRC, applied for mining rights. These were granted by the Department of Minerals and Energy in 2008. The community was not consulted.
Apa sizosebenza uzosebenza kanjani basikela uma nithole ngomhlaba wesifunda asicela sisibenze ngendaba nje hayi sithole amaphepha abhalwe into ezodonga nitheni ke ukuthi ngasikele thina bese sisizisa emafonini sidla emaredio ethize esemaredio ngoba sathi ke ngoba sikwazi ukufumana into leyo akuqala bathi thina asiyokasha asifaka izokasha kwafuleyo bathatha abantu ngamizikude ukubasula sisiteka sinanyo sathi ngomhlaba wethu sobi.
Community activist Sikosipi Hadebe, also known as Bazooka, from the Amadiba Crisis Committee, and campaigned against mining in Kolobeni. In the meantime, the dunes were being mined. Over the next 20 years, MRC would extract 9 million tons of minerals from these dunes. The government called these development projects.
Baphindele lokuya bazofaka isicelo sokuthi futhi bafuna uzosheka kwaliwa nomhlaba bebuye bazosheka ngoba ngoba antsho sekudabukelela amaqembu semanje bebuye bazohlola hayi sabayeka bona bahlola ngesikhathi sebebuya sebethi bazofaka isicelo sokubalekela bacela ukuzosebenza ukuzomba izindima hayi saqhankqalaza ngelo khathi ke lokusekhona obaba ubhalashele baso usekhona ke obaba ubhalashele kwasho singenelela ngokubhasuka nabantu ngobhasuka nabasincedisa nabesithi umhlaba abafuni nawo ngoba inkomo zomakhulu zafa zibulawa leliqhwa elenzeka hla nalithile isilwane somhlaba
wakhangela into phaya eyayikhala ngazakho wangathintoni eyilifu eyenzile ikhala nje ithi nje ikhala kwami sasala phandle thina sasiyesibasa nkomo sinemuzi imizi iyonke kuyizibala zenkomo inkomo zemkanimifula seva bese yambile imishini bakanti ngokuthi ichizimisile umnikazi womhlaba ekanje zange zibe sihalele ukuthi kanti akuphinde kuthiwe kukhona into ekuthiwa yimali sibona isibaya ngale basibona isibaya sinengozi ingozi nesifo sinengozi sinenkomo acabanga ke sokuthongela imali yonke lento esinayo kule ndawo sinamathuna sinabantu abadala nje azange kuphinde kumnandi ukuhlala soba khona imali ngoba khona nemizi engangenelani ngenxa yemali thina sonehlahla ke siyangenelana sizokuhlala sahlalekile.
Ngasho ukuthi lento iqhizile umphakathi kakhulu
kundawo ukuthi mohamba kuyosuku kodwa ukuthi mangase ngibhaqela mhlawumbe ngasangithola ngifile kodwa ngoba kusetholobeni abantu basetholobeni abakuthembanga ukubulalana uba bakuthembene ngaze ukhulunywe nito cabanga ubonile imali yami ngibona yathi lebhodi ebhodi ngilase sibalele khona ekhona idatshelo ezinye ziyaziyo nto uvalo ba zishayele phaya lapho ziye esibhedlela ziye emajele zishayele emabhodi emjika kulo shaye idatshelo indawo engasilungelanga
Then the unthinkable happened. Bazuka was killed at his home in Kolobeni, in front of his teenage son. Eloba ikansala katanga libelise ngo-2015 ungomnye wabantu oye wabulawa emzini wakhe wathutulwa abantu abangaziwayo ebebezibiza ngoba bangamapolisi sanethemba loba ke wakuba ebulewe noko ubulungisa buzobe azama ngawo wonke amanje esinawo enqaba phambi koba abulawe wayihlele ikhona into ethi kunabantu abazingelwayo okufuneke bebulewe kulo mzabala wama-democratic kwabo bantu yayinzima abantu ababeselisi invuye ingumzamondana ube uthe ebulawa sabe siselisi sazi intobana kunelisi ekhoyo esingayazi uba iphethwe ngubani eyobafuneka ukuthi inkokheli ukuze izinto zilunge. 8 years since Bazuka's death, he has not been forgotten, and the struggle continues. Among those in favor of the mining is an organization called the Kolobeni Youth for Sustainable Development. The MRC has paused the mining for now, and the future of the project is uncertain, but many hope that the sun won't set on Bazuka's dream. Otherwise, they might have to leave their ancestral land forever. Although moderately successful in their fights against the MRC's plan to mine in Kolobeni, the community has evidently been affected by the fight. The community is divided, with some members in favor of the MRC mining and others against. Those that are for the mining endeavor are either from a neighboring village, which will not be as affected as Kolobeni, or they believe that the mine will be the solution to their financial lack. They believe the mining project will bring with them employment. To make matters worse, the MRC has made no mention of stepping away from the project. Instead, they mention that they have placed it on pause. Nonetheless, the Kolobeni people went to court and secured for all time, for all South Africans, the right to say no. As it stands, it's Kolobeni versus the MRC, and neocolonialism versus ancestry. The victor is still yet to be determined.
Okay, so that was Kolobani. Has anybody got any questions that would like to speak to the producer? Producer front. That would be easier. Okay, your question?
Mulweni. Unfortunately, Mulweni bakhaya kuba ndiyistori ngasisangapha ngakuthi friends. Kodwa ke it's a good topic, very sensitive topic. Don't worry, sister. It's a good topic and a very sensitive topic. There are things as to improve, like your shadow in Bengwabantu, your camera angles, your rule of third, but the Taliban is close. The bona camera, there is so you need to be very careful xa ufilima yebo intloko yakho ingasitwa ingadluli phaya ne sinayo potential esi story yokuzisa imali because I think that topic it's been there kwakhona nento flowers. I was attempted to tell the story, but yeah, kwakhona nento flowers inkosi wayengafuni bantu abathintini but sine potential esi story to make money yebo. It's just a matter of the work yebo. Now we volunteer to help. If who I am doesn't matter, but I will volunteer to help. I'm very sure my brother here, he's got a camera, the quality that abantu abahleli beyikhangela. So besibukele where each light yakhona and but siyeke ezinye izinto, but it's a good story. It's got a potential. So yenza imali le topic kudala kwathetha ngayo. So guys, sisigcinisa story nenze show ngoba nenze imali ngaso. For me, I go and my question and then doing it, but it's no potential in it. Guys, this is a man funding. Thank you.
Hi guys. I feel it was your very intense production to do, and I'm just wondering. My question is that how safe was it to shoot this? I mean, there is a woman that says that the journalists have been kept and beaten up until they are hospitalized, and this lady is that's like the crew, and I'm like, hey, how long did it take? And the police with you, how did you manage the safety? Because that kind of content is really very, 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 very sensitive. So the question is that how long did you take and what did you do for safety measures for yourself? That's my two questions. Thank you. And it was a good work to even think of going there against all these things that is happening and be brave enough. But yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Molweni, hello everyone. My name is Sibabalwe Bobi, and I was a camera operator in this production. So we went to Kolobeni as a big crew from the Rhodes University Journalism Department, and prior to going to Kolobeni, we spoke to Unonke, and she arranged tour guides for us, so people who would walk with us to these various communities so that we can engage with them and talk to them and learn more about the story. So we didn't really have anyone in terms of like police to look after us. We just trusted each other, and that was how we managed. Thank you.
Also, just to add, she mentioned that we spoke to Unonke, so we had perspectives about the potential dangers that come with going there. So there were places, for example, where we drove and they were like, we cannot drive on that road because if we are spotted with cameras, then we might be attacked. So we had to move strategically. Yes, there were moments where maybe you sit an interview with someone and then we're told that people came back to threaten them and tell them not to speak to us or else they'll be harmed. So we did have those kind of challenges, but in terms of us, no one directly came to threaten us. So. Hi, I'm Zianda Kwana. To answer the question of how long it took, we went there on Friday, got there on Friday, and then Saturday afternoon. We got there Saturday afternoon, and we started shooting immediately, and we left on Sunday. Yeah, so it wasn't long. Yeah, not even one day. Yes. So we were very pressed for time. Next question.
Thank you for the question. All right, there's two more questions. The two gentlemen at the back. Oh, one more.
No, thank you guys, and I think one appreciates the thought process that has gone into this. Mine is quite simple. So the title says Kolobeni is Umhlaba Umhlaba. If you go into the content of the conversations, it's about the contestation in regards to mining. Now I understand from the conversations afterwards about the time pressures that you had, how one would wish that in going back to improving the storyline, that you would go back and capture these elements that talk to Sejong Mhlaba, so that the title itself ties up with the content. So shifting away from the mining issue, not necessarily to dislodge it and put it aside, but if I was watching and the title says Sejong Mhlaba, I would want aspects of that being featured in the film. What are these things that people of Kolobeni would rather be doing and be engaging in, as opposed to allowing their land to be used for mining? So without getting into that whole conversation about whether to mine or not to mine, but for me, I took this to be more of a documentary, and therefore a documentary by its nature should be fact-based and using visuals. And I like the fact that you use ordinary people to tell their story without being edited, about how they view the whole thing of people wanting to come and use their land for mining. So that in itself was brilliantly done. To have all done all of that in such a short space of time means that time, resources, security-wise, being secured, you can go back and continue the conversation so that you can bring back a better quality product that talks to the title. So big ups on this challenge.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Two from the back.
Yes, okay.
Ladies and gents, hope everyone's good. My name is Matthew Prince.
Outside voice?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Much better.
Evening, my name is Matthew Prince. Hope you guys are good. I just wanted to ask, what were some of the challenges you guys faced or difficulties on set and after in post-production?
Oh, Lord. What do I say was a challenge? I think it's mostly the budget of the whole production thing. Of course, the organizing of the traveling to Kolobeni, because it was a long trip, extremely long trip. I think it was more of a smooth sailing process, the production at Kolobeni. We found our interviewers. We came to Kolobeni with a plan. No one was really confused on where to go. You understand? So I think that's just basically. I think it was just based on maybe the traveling, the meetings we held. We had a few fights, disagreements, but I think the most important thing is that we came as a team and came with a plan and executed it perfectly, in my opinion. I'm biased, so I think we executed it perfectly. So I think.
Okay, just to add on to what Uvu was saying, I think we had a lot of challenges. One of the challenges that we had is that we had a plan. So the story was, we were meant to do a story about Bazooka specifically. But when we got there, either people were too scared to talk about Bazooka, or the younger ones didn't really know too much about Bazooka. So we had to, on the field, change the game plan and find out, okay, what can we get and what can we do with what we get. So that was the first challenge. The second challenge was time, because I think we got lost. We kind of got lost. So instead of arriving in the morning, we arrived on Saturday, because we had a weekend to do it. We arrived on Saturday afternoon, and then we had to maximize and then wake up. I think we woke up at like 3, and then we had to walk because the car could not drive on some areas. So time was a big deal. We had to leave by 12 because we had to go back on campus. So time was the second thing. Then editing. I think editing as a big team is a very big challenge, because everyone has an idea of, okay, I think this would work better. So that was another challenge that we faced. So those were the 3 things that I can say, they were a big challenge for us. And time, because even editing, I think we had to do it in like 3 days. Because it started on Monday and the screening was supposed to be on like a Thursday. So we had like 3 days to edit all of that. So yeah, those were our main challenges. I don't know if I left anything else.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question from the lady, and then we'll move to the next movie.
Thank you. My name is Yolisa. It's not a question, it's a comment. My name is Yolisa, and I want to thank you guys for letting me down that story. I've been involved in that story at many different levels. It's a very intimate story to me. I was part of the team that actually raised funds to develop the tourism project. And I'm talking about as far back as the early 2000s. And there's a case study that we actually did to look at how families were surviving from that tourism project and everything around it. CNN played a very good, so when I was a journalist, I brought that story into international media, so to use it as a way to advertise that tourism initiative. And CNN was adamant and very good in promoting that area. So when that project began to have problems, and the community was fighting amongst each other. So then I was involved in that as a journalist, trying to cover the story and give it some ears, some ears and some eyes. So that issue of Singumhlaba and Singumhlaba is literally what it is. It needs no explanation. If one understands apartheid economics, a lot of the mine workers were dragged from those communities. So it has been women that have looked after those communities. So for me, the fact that it's 3 ladies that actually were part of that project and were involved with Nomhle is unrelenting in funding for that project. Because in the province where the multiplier effect is 1 to 7, and most of the people that feed are really women. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for keeping that story alive. And that story has got an international appeal. So you guys need to think about what you do post this phase to take it forward.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Can we give them a round of applause? So the next one will be tokens of our time machine, presented by Andre Hugo. After the screening, if you could join us on stage. Andre, are you here? Perfect. All right. Enjoy.
Kijk maar, ons zoek wel visie guys, brother. That's what we are looking for. Ons trade, day to day, ons doen meubels en antiques. Soos vir jou vlerke. Mense bel ons en sê, kyk hier, my male is oorlede. Hulle huis is vol goed. Hulle stel nie belang in Boya Lounge Suite van die 80s nie. En ons kom al in, ons maak 'n offer om die hele huis leeg te maak. Om daai burden basically van hulle af te kry. En dan maak ons die huis leeg en in die kaste vind ons hierdie stuff. Hey, wat sien ek hierso? Het ek sien? Hierso sien ek iets. Het ek sien? Dis het fijn. Al die hele box uit? Nee man, dis tussen die encyclopedia so. My bro. Dis niks anders hier in Kellen. Wat ek love is die quite. Sure man. Boekie is wel? Wat was? Dis op die serie is die indien. Wat bid ek jou? 50 rand. As die serie in is, gee my 50 rand. Okay. Right. Hey, you know, 50 rand, man. Yo, dude, that's beautiful. Just check in the light out. So my neef het soos 'n buitekamer gehad met sy eie badkamer en stuff. Want ek onthou, hy het soos sy eie PC in die kamer gehad. As jy in daai kamer is, dan kan jy al die good stuff nou like experience. Hy het 'n PS1 gekry, kan ek onthou, like 'n nuwe een. Ek onthou, ons vir ure en ure gesit het om 'n beer te kry. Soos half, ek was so lus om te speel, ek weet nie wat hy gespeel het nie, maar my klein brein kon ek nie verstaan, like wat aangaan nie. Maar eventually, as hy gaan slaap het, dan was het soos free game, man. Want jy ingegaan en jy het gespeel, en dit was soos 11 vir die aand. Toe was dit jou tyd, want nou is hy moeg gespeel. Jy wacht vir jou beer, en dan is het soos, okay, finally, like, hy gaan nou slaap, like, nou sit. Ek dink dis waar hy raad gedraai het van, as ek groot is, ek klomp games van my eie en ek gaan speel net wanneer ek wil. Ja. Vir jare lang het het gesit in kaste, daar was het niks aan mee gedoen nie. Het was personal, amper een trophy room. In my eetkamer, op die tyd het is soos 'n sideboard gehad en ek het begin van die goed uitstal daar. En dan bring ek net heeltyd, want as gevolg van die besigheid bring ons heeltyd goed huis toe. So ek kom elke tweede, derde aand, ek kom al krag by die huis. Ek het my vrou later dan soos gesê, ons moet iets doen hier omtrent, want ons kry mense oor en alles wat ons sien is net Age of Empires en Sims. Like, jy sal die goed moet skuif en toe sit like spaarkamer toe en sit ek na die little man cave en ja, toe gaan ek in my buitengarage in. En toe raak die buitengarage bietjie te klein. Ja, ons is gebless om hierdie space te kry. Hierdie space in die laaste. Nou is ons hier. Ja, dit is ons staan. Ja, wat is die next one? Ek dink nie almal sien die value soos ons het sien. Ek dink sommige mense sien die goed as stap en ons sien die goed as tokens vir the time sheet.
Ek dink die uitpunt is 'n tipe museum.
Ja.
Waar mense tickets gaan koop
skoolkinders
kan bring en laat hulle ook kan leer oor die ou media, want dit gaan uitstel.
So nice wees om vandag se generasie 'n geleentheid te gee om soos op daai pinball te kan speel en om daai manual, hoe kan ek sê, analog tipe gaming te kan experience. En ek dink dis maar ons mission om dit alles te probeer preserve vir toekomstige generasies om te hê.
Ou games het 'n boek, 'n walkthrough boek wat jy like
ja, maar ons is
en nou 'n Metal Gear Solid se een mission teen wat is daai ou se naam?
Op sick play man.
Ek wil dit Psycho Man. So, wanneer jy teen hom fight is 'n boss fight. Niemand het vir jou gesê daai jare, like haal jou PS1, like jou player 1 controller uit, plak dit by player 2 in en dan kan hy nie jou mind read nie en dan kan jy hom defeat.
Klein goedjies wat I mean,
wat uitsterf in gaming. Vandag gaming is 'n battle pass, 'n payment system en dis net 'n cash grab van mense. En daai jare was dit kuns.
Alright, can you join us here on stage? Alright, thank you. You can perhaps introduce yourself again and then we'll take some questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andre Hugo, and I was the director of the short doc, along with the DP, Michael Ellis, who helped me film it. Make it look amazing. Yeah, and maybe it's just a bit backstory. I found these brothers that were an Instagram page about retro games. I understand it's a very niche doc. People who were born in that era, and that's a nostalgic feeling for them. But it really resonated with me, the passion when I started speaking to them, the passion they had for what they're doing, as well as the whole idea of nostalgia and how it's able to transport you back into that state of mind of when you were playing that game. You remember when you were 8 or 10 or whatever, and it just brings that feeling back, and there's something powerful about that. So any questions?
Thank you, Andre. Unfortunately, Andre, I only managed to catch a little bit of the film, but I was very interested in the idea of like these games and stuff. And you say that you found them on Instagram. I was wondering what drew you personally to that story. Are you also like a person who is gaming and whatever have you not? And I know it's gaming obviously is especially that type of games, like very old games like how we grew up with, is very niche as you say. But I wanted to know, do you think also, like just a second question, do you think it's like is it a good idea maybe to go and source stories from there if you're going to be making documentaries? To go sources like stories from people on like social media and stuff. What is your view of that? Yeah, how to find stories basically. Yeah. Do you think social media is a good place, or like because normally we are making stories as documentary filmmakers because we are interested in the stories, or like because they encourage us to. It must be a story that's personal to you, especially like as emerging or first-time documentary makers. So, what do you think is a good place basically to get stories? And yeah, thank you very much.
Cool. So the first question was so I grew up in that same era, and what caught my attention was that posted a picture of a game that kind of triggered me that I played that game when I was young. I completely forgot. So it was a strong reconnection to that when I was that young. So that interested me. I wasn't a big gamer like they are. Like you can see, they're just fanatics and they love it. But that was enough for me to kind of be interested in their story. And then when I called the one character and I found more out about it, he told me it's him and his brother doing it. And I love that dynamic, that it was like, a family thing that they were doing. So I thought, there must be a story there. As far as social media, I mean, yes, it's a great tool to find stories. I think, another, it's basically like amateur journalism, if you want to call it, because I'm not a journalist and I'm not here on the ground like checking the news, what's going on, and through social media, like these things come to you through the algorithm, things that you're interested in, and then it's just a question of, will this character work for the story? Can things work out? Can you get there? In our situation, it was actually I'm part of a online documentary school, film school, and it's a thing you can do one day docs. You've got 24 hours to film it, and that's what we did there. That's also why it was time limited. Like it was only 6 minutes long, but you had to film it in 24 hours. So I mean, everything kind of fell in place. The DP that helped me, he was also doing it for free, passion project. So I guess when everything fell in place, I was like, no, this the story, we need to tell it.
Yeah. How's it, you? Good. I think I got some of the answers that I wanted to ask. But this is a beautiful story. It takes me back to the Nintendo days, in olden China. I relate a lot. I used to play those games very much. In terms of moving forward, because it is a very open-ended piece, where to from here in terms of this project?
Well, initially, I was interested in that reaction I got when I saw that thing they posted, and it brought back this memory. So that was the initial, but when I started thinking further about it, it was the idea of nostalgia and the power of that. How a memory or a picture you can see now, or a game you can see, can take you back to that moment, like you're living it again. And it was probably naive to think we could answer that question in a 6-minute doc, but that would be, if I would make it longer, it would dive into the power of nostalgia. Is it just someone living in the past and they're not ready to face the future? I don't want to, have new technology. Almost like you were saying in the end, like today games are just like a cash grab and it's online. And back then you physically felt the CD and you put it in, and it, is that, should we strive for the past or should we, embrace the future? But that whole idea of is nostalgia, can it be a good thing, or is it a thing where you're living in the past, which could be a bad thing, So
Afternoon. I don't really have questions, just a few things that caught my eye. I just want to leave a comment to say a shout out. Number one, love your grade. That retro feel came through. I like how you put into aspect ratio 4:3. Spot on, it goes hand in hand with the grade. I love the fact that you guys are speaking Afrikaans. It's a bit different, a different flavor. So I also enjoyed the Afrikaans part of it. Your subtitles also matched with the grade, so I could see you guys were all, this was been 24 hours, so you guys were all on the same page, is what it's telling me. And then your lighting was also on point for haze. You were able to match your shots where there was no haze and with haze. That's also very sick. I did want to say, zero in on your narrative person. I'm more of a tech boy, but zeroing on your narrative and your storyline, because there's something there. However, you did say you had 24 hours to do this, and I know the pressure behind that. So for 24 hours, man, y'all killed it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? No? Okay. One more.
I'm saying this blindly because I didn't get to watch the film, but the thing that caught me now is like it's a 24-hour turnaround, and that it's a documentary. I'm not a documentary person. I love documentaries if there's like meta storylines or something. That's not my forte. So I'm just saying, I think also it's part of the question that somebody asked to say it's open-ended. Do you have any intention of growing do you still call it a film? Yeah, the film, to make it longer. And also, is there an opportunity perhaps to make it scripted and actually turn it into a film?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I like that. Like you mentioned, we did very stylistically so that can, I think, translate into a fictional story. I have had some ideas about what you can do. Like, there's the whole thing about them, you can watch it, but they go into old houses that people just sell off stock and barrel, like not the house but the contents, and then they get a price and they take everything and they sell off the antique furniture, but then they find these gems of like games. So there's that whole what is it? Not reality TV, but it's like it shows like that where they go into these containers and they don't know what they're going to get on. They're going to get like a series based on YouTube, like follow them around, see what they get. You know, are they going to get any rare items that are very valuable, or are they going to get pay so much and there's nothing there? But I like the characters and I love their passion. I think that's what stuck to me. So I see potential in that. The one brother still runs the Instagram account and creates content the whole time. So he's still very active in that space and also very, they've got a good following in that space. So I think they can have the potential. As far as like who would want to fund and who would want to, as I said, it's very niche. So who would it appeal to? But I'm always surprised when people do resonate with it, even if they're not gamers. So it tells me there's potential. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Andre. All right, so the next one is Uzolunga. It's by Tuso Mukhoti and Kateho Murutane. If they can come to stage, please, after the screening. Thank you.
Kulunja asapila lido bazi fa sapila mkurushi ya kutu masazo kuluma za bwana mangui au uchakale fa asalu matasa tasa when the mood you over to the coast you I put my days head over there when I'm going to the post over down on the floor and I feel like I do
Little young, this world, I swear I wanna go. I was waiting for your guidance.
Wena bhaqa boba sekwenzenjani manje ngobhuti wena yomoron yini manje wena sani ngazosibheka kabi ngazosibheka kanje wena awubona inkinga yakho uzosibheka ngathi i-government esipanyana or i-FBI nyana ungazosibheka kabi yini inkinga yakho ungangena uhulumeni mina futhi ungangena uhulumeni manje soma sowubuta ngogwapa wena ubusha ukuthi cha awu yini ngicela ubatshele futhi kwenze njani kanje yena mawuloku usibheke kanje uyabamba khuluma manje angithi ngiyangithusa nje ngizomphezela umuntu wami bafethu ngiyaxoxa kodwa futhi ngizomphezela isithando sami usamlwayi yasho njalo bethu Kipano kasi nga boleh saya kamban.
Hey baby, the souvenir not getting back to me. What's going on? No, I don't like what they I feel like a clown always waiting for you, like the people at the end and you don't take me seriously. No.
Jangan sama-sama siapa yang ngomong cuma apa tadi lo sekarang dan juga ada menggunakan aja belum asal itu yang serumusnya konon. Sen menggunakan satu dunia sudah akun itu apa tadi lo sekarang potongan jalan sana.
Ayo, mencoba sendiri. Sendiri. Ini. Amira, itu sendiri. Kuna enye ingwe ngibenile lapha yeyini
so injalo lo khamele
ibhoki green ibezimhlane izongifanela
lazo ukuthi isikhala
izongifanela
malini
900
oh 900
izongifanela ngiyafuna ukuyithola ngula ngikoke
ya ngiyacela kamsa
izongifanela yona ayisengishisa ukuyigqoka nje angisabazi ngisho ukulinda
Ngobusuka manje usudalebhela uya kuphi? Wena washathi into ngakho yini mfethu? Ukuthi cha wena yazi uthi ngibuka njalo mhlala ubhekene nami. Wena unapilo. Ubhekene nami njalo. Lapho uyakhona kukhumula. Ngibona ngathi uyagula mina. Manje ngikhuluma nawe uyakuphi? Uyakuphi ngikhuluma nawe. Ish. Ngabe konke madoda. Ngizobona kuka.
What is my family franchise or coincidence in next week?
Wow. So, Plazoniana?
No, some other thing because I haven't listened to the next week.
Oh, okay. So, somebody making me now.
But Christmas party, by that thing around. So missing that one.
Okay, fine. Kalau bulan dah kita sama.
No, sometimes I do it. Ya kan orang lain dia jam zobi, lo kau macam zobi anak.
Di kau nanti.
Kau macam zobi anak pun jangan kan.
Hakinya lo.
Kasihan. Apa ni?
Thank you so much.
Alright. Hey, boom.
Mina understand ukuthi why uhlala ucomplain ngami mina ngifuna ukuchitha isikhathi nawe. Nenze sure ukuthi ngaso sonke isikhathi wena usafe. But namhlanje wenza kanje. Iyona ndlela engibona ngayo le.
Uzosichitha isikhathi nami uma ngibuya emsebenzini ngoba kushuthi wena uhlezi ngesikhathi sonke ngithi nami ngiyasidinga isikhathi sami ngaphandle nje kwale relationship yethu. Angiyona ingane mina.
Ubonga nje into ongenakho. Because mina ngenza sure ukuthi ngaso sonke isikhathi ngiyagcina ngikuphelezele ngikusematekisini. Ngenze sure ukuthi you are there on time. Ngiphinde futhi escort ukuya emsebenzini uza la endlini. Ngenze sure ukuthi usafe. But wena iyona ndlela ongangibona ngayo le.
Hayibo, angikaze ngicele mina ukuthi kwenze konke lokho. Ukubuyavuka uhambe ufuna umsebenzi njengamanye amadoda abasibanje yonke lento esiyibangala namhlanje.
Namhlanje sengisinami kuwena.
Amanye amadoda amethi nalokhu wena uzothunani yini ozothunani
Kutani nawe nje
unangqondo unami ukhona umuntu ongama ukuthi unami
uyisiyoyoyo sesinamnam sendoda isehluleki esihlulwa yiyo yonke into wena sekwazi zonke izinto ekwenzela zona ngikufikela emaphareni namhlanje mina sengisinamnam sengiyisiyoyoyo kuwena kasata ungibone ngiyakukhanyisa wena ukuthini nje lokho kusho kumina njengamanje kasata ngi-exist kuwena angazi nje futhi ngaba khona empilweni yakho yini into oyidinga kumina yini into engakwenzeli yona ungasebenzi kwami sekusho ukuthi ukhuluma kanje ngami yini kanti into efuna kumina angigculisi ngicela umtelo nawe cela umtelo ayikho into engayenzeli yona ngentombazane mkhulu yebo ngiyazi umsebenzi kodwa kufanele bese kuba yihlaya kumina lokho lo-Enzo uyangithanda uyohlala ekuthanda bengasilona iphutha lakho ungasukela ukushayela itekisi ngalelo langa ngeke uphumule lapha khona mkhulu ngiyamthanda nje ukuphi kufanele ngikwenza nje mkhulu Kuzolo. Kahle ulandoda wena ukuhlala uzokuyela mina kukangaka ngikhuluma nawe nsizwa ukuthi lapho hlezi yakhona akuhlali muntu esiphuphuku sempala uvuka njalo ugeza amahala ugeza ukuthi wohlamba kodwa futhi bengizobona uphesha ngakutshela nalesibili ngathi lapho yakhona akuhlali muntu akungasenhle musukuhlala kangaka uhlanya la bathina abazali uhlanya kangaka mfana wami uthina abantwana nje usuvuka usugeza uthina uhlala nabantu angisho ukuthi sichumile lapha okay sikayiningi kuyami sijaza angithi mina besithi ufriend ngithe isifuna uringa lapha baba silokusheki iphelile lapha ngitshelile yabona manje ngitshelile indawo elabanya foda la
noma ngingaphume kasi uhlala ngisoma sengiphethe amamita uhlala ngisoma mnandi kunzima uhlala ngisoma uhlala ngisoma uhlala ngisoma stand for the truth, I don't fabricate. Knowing people so shit, so who's so busy fabricate. I don't need these documents, all I do is calculate. In this concrete channel, man, I keep it fresh and I'm up to date. Mount Peace and Ubu, now I'm not way. They told me I'm a demo, I'm back off a way. Yalla, Kabapala, but to hell of a way. Kabapala, Bidakipala, a way. So fly is a one, so a fire is a one, so I'm size of one. So you're right, about the battalion, I do it better than me. More pia mepesa kaza tuweje upati balikdala batate kitu ama bazo hapo.
Hello everybody. Are you guys good? I hope you enjoy this film. My name is Tuso Mohoto, also known as Jovi Slash. I make music and I make films as well. I love raising awarenesses through film and music that I do. So in this film, I was raising an awareness about a disorder that affects a person's ability to think and act, which is called schizo. Yes. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm here for you.
Really? Tuesday, my guy. Thank you, man, for the wonderful film, man. I'm here to comment. The shots are brilliant. The composing, it's awesome, man. I wish I was part of it. Yeah, man, great work. I like the work that you're doing. I hope that you are able to create more of these, and I want to see more.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Afternoon. I only have two questions. Was there a reason you guys used two of the same shot sizes? For example, at the taxi rank, there was two wides, and I think inside the house as well. And then number two, what were some of the lighting equipment you guys had access to during production?
To be honest with this project, it was just a matter of what do you do when you're still waiting for funding, because we apply and then, prior to getting funding, what do? Do you sit back and wait for money or use whatever that you have? So with this project, I was very intentional in what I wanted to do, and I was like, I'm going to give myself 48 hours to complete the project. So the budget of the project is 2,000 rands, literally. So most of the shots were not necessarily intentional, like the wide shots outside. It was just establishing shots to pretty much show you where we are. I did have a couple of shots and style that I wanted to go with, but time as well and equipment factor. These things really contributed to what we have now. But honestly, there's so much that I wanted to do, but a whole lot of things happened, like your rotating and lights that were not mine and they had to go. Sometimes you plan accordingly. There's beautiful shots that you have in mind, but time is a factor in everything that you do. So, but in every single project that I work on, I make sure that I start it and finish it.
Hi, Tuso, and all I just want to say is great work. So I'm watching that. I was part of the team that watched the movie for what we're going to choose to select to watch here. So it's not a very long time ago, and it's amazing. It hit me the same way it hit me that time, And I think for me, what works with that movie is a very simple concept that you've used: less is more.
And just to add, before your question, I'm a firm believer of, as a musician and also a filmmaker, we have the ability to tell stories on behalf of, people around us. So we are privileged to have the voice of the masses. Schizophrenia is a mental disorder that normally in our communities, predominantly black communities, doesn't follow you. There's so many stigmas around mental health and disorders that we don't really understand. So I'm trying to raise awareness around this issue.
Hi, Tuso. Was this based on a true story?
Not at all. It's fiction.
Okay. And the script writing, was it part of your 48-hour time limit?
No, with the script and development of the story, we kind of put time to it, so it wasn't necessarily in a short period of time.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to hog. If you had time and money, what would you have done? What for you were the areas that ideally, in an ideal world, you would have given more time and a different treatment to?
Yeah. I would definitely give time into the performance. Even though we kind of went through script reading, I would like the performance to be even better. And also the cinematography, I was not really happy with how it came out. I knew exactly the standard that I wanted, but due to time and limited resources, the project had to be finished. Yeah.
I just wanted to say congratulations and well done. We can have a room full of people here, and you'll find there's only 3 filmmakers, and you're one of the 3. And I think that's a big thing, and I think congratulations on that. I think as a film that you've made, also the fact that we're sitting here and giving you like a critique to it is because there is a film to be critiqued. Right? And I think you may not be happy with, we creators, we're never happy about anything anyway, right? But the mere fact that you've actually done it and it's on a big screen and you've got an audience that's sitting here to watch it, I think you need to pat yourself on the back for that. And take the wins, right? The could have, should have, would have, go make another one. Robert Rodriguez, he did what is Desperado and Al Mariachi, and then the third one, which is my favorite, was Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And it's pretty much like the same film that started as one thing and then it got 0 budget, where he was using what he got. He wrote. He didn't conceptualize the film. He looked around and said, I've got a bus. I'm gonna write about a bus. I've got this, so you make do with what you have, and the strength and the learnings from this is that you are a filmmaker, you are doing it, go do the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. So well done.
Thank you. I thank you. And I would like us to pretty much be wary of mental illnesses and also be part of raising awarenesses around that in our neighborhoods, whether it's rural areas or urban areas. It's things that we kind of shed away from because of cultural or environmental norms, but things need to change, and we need to not hide our people from our communities, and we need to take them to institutions that would help them. I would like to thank you.
Thank you very much, Tuso. That was fantastic and a great way to end the evening. Unfortunately, we need to close the program. We have a hard stop at 6:30 because the venue is booked for 7, and we need to do a setup for the next segment. I know there were about 2 or 3 other films that were supposed to screen today, but unfortunately we're not able to do so. Yeah, I'll apologize for that on behalf of the ECDC, but there will be another opportunity for us to do so in the future. We'll look at something we can do before the end of the year in collaboration with one of our partners, and we'll see if we can't screen them at that platform. But thank you everybody for coming and for being here for this last segment of the program today. Today was quite exciting. There's a lot that we had to take in. Tomorrow we're here again. It's 9 o'clock. The program starts. I'm hoping to see everybody here tomorrow. It's also going to I'm lost. Sorry? Because the venue is booked for a certain time and there's a program for tomorrow, unfortunately we can't accommodate it. I would have loved to, but yeah, not at this time. Alright. Okay, so then we'll see everybody tomorrow, and thank you very much for staying till the end of the program, and have a great evening further. Thank you.